State Line, Indianapolis, and live from the racing capital of the world, we welcome you to the summer of virtual IndyCar racing. 6 races, $7,000. It's the start of the VCO IndyCar Challenge powered by OpenWheels.com. Hi folks, Arjuna Kekipati here, and so excited about what lies in store for us. It was 3 years ago that in the ISOWC we saw top-level sim racers challenge themselves against the best that the virtual IndyCar community has to offer, and boy, what fun was had. And now all those years on, with some heartbreak behind us, Joey, we get ready to do it once again. And you and I, we love our American open wheel racing, and what a schedule we've got in store for us here this season across our street circuits, road courses, and of course the high-speed ovals that have defined American open wheel racing in the years since it first began here at the Speedway all those years ago.
Going to be a little bit like the greatest hits this season. We started with a track that you're very familiar with in terms of IndyCar racing. The past couple of seasons in the real world and in the virtual world, we've gone here multiple times this season. Drivers are going to have tons of experience around here, tons of experience around Barber. We know how racy that gets. We know sometimes the bumpers tend to come out. We know sometimes the front wings tend to fly off, but that'll be very exciting. Then the Bull Ring at Iowa, very similar time to when you're going to see that happening in the real world in a couple of weeks, so you'll have lots of hype getting into that event. Belle will return to the streets of Detroit, the very bumpity bumps. We've had enough craziness at the new street circuit of Detroit. We almost forget how crazy and difficult Belle was, the old classic at Road America, and then no better place to end a season than the fine Auto Club Speedway, sadly now bulldozed and being turned into luxury house developments or Amazon warehouses or something, but it still exists in the virtual world. That's the power of sim racing. We can keep going to those fantastic tracks that don't exist anymore, and that'll be the perfect place to crown a champion.
And our champion's going to have to go through a bit of a gauntlet in many ways, qualifying the first of them, the 42 drivers, which then get split up into their 3 groups. We'll get underway for the first of those qualifying groups in a few moments' time. The fastest 11 in each move on forward to the race itself. There are bonus points for being fast. But first, you've got to make your way on forward to the 75 laps that we've got in front. And let's take a look at those qualifying groups, because it gives us a look at some of the names, some of the drivers and stars that we've got. And of course, yes, Redline, Apex, Coanda, plenty of those drivers to take center stage. But I've got my eyes also focused on the iRacing IndyCar community favorites, the likes of Christian Steele and Rob Malechka, recent iRacing Indy 500 winners, and Phil Kraus, the man that loves to build houses here at the Speedway.
Well, that's going to be the real storyline to follow all season long. The drivers who are IndyCar regulars, who have more experience in this vehicle, in this machinery than anybody else on the service. And you also have the drivers who may not have specific experience in this car. They definitely have a ton. They definitely have some, but it's not their specialty. But they're so strong in every type of machinery, even slightly similar open wheel machinery, that when you put them in an Indy car, when you put them in an open wheel car of any sort, they're going to be pretty fast. There's a lot of drivers in this field with experience in Grand Prix racing on iRacing, and the F1 cars, and the IR01. That's going to be the storyline all season long. Will it be the IndyCar specialists who succeed, or will it be the specialists who succeed?
Yep, and I think we're going to get that first sense right now as the first qualifying group is moments away from being sent out onto track, and that means, of course, it's time for us to take a look at what's going to happen for them. 13 because one driver unfortunately missing this opening round. You can see the cars on pit lane getting ready to make their way on out. Race control will give them the green flag, and then one by one, we'll see how they all go. Should be a lot of fun in this first round of the VCO IndyCar Challenge powered by OpenWheels.com. And the great thing about being here in the world of sim racing, Joey, is that we can take a look behind the scenes at all of the drivers getting ready to go.
I love the grid. I love when we see the carousel of entertainment. Lots of very similar setups here. A couple of different angles, couple of different wheels and bases, but lots of people in their blank white rooms. I saw, I don't know who it was. I assume it was one of the Scandinavian drivers who had some beautiful wood paneling behind him. I'm going to be looking forward to seeing the carousel of entertainment all day long. And I promise I'll keep the criticisms to maybe a 6 out of 10. There'll definitely still be some criticisms, but I'll tone it down a little bit.
So here we go. Pressure builds up as the first qualifying session of the season is underway. One thing to note with 3 qualifying groups, effectively the grid is going to be snake split. So the fastest group, the driver that effectively sets the fastest time, will be on pole position. And that is the fastest time because it is across of all 3 groups. Then the other groups filter in after that, and the 33 will make their way to the green flag as the first round of the season will get underway. Christian Steele, Christian Hilgard, Elliot Veyron, Adam Crane, Andrew Marquez, Alex Van der Sant, Eduardo Leo, Blaise Andrick, David Toth, Brandon Roseborough, Diogo Pinto, and Daniel Lorenzo, the drivers that are currently out there on track, but I do believe Enric Andre should at some point join them as well. Not quite sure if he's electing to try and build up here. They only have 7 minutes, Joey. It's not a lot of time to set a time.
Yeah, and I hope we do see Enric Andre. We want to see Race Clutch represented tonight with everybody else, but it's going to look a little bit like those IndyCar qualifying sessions you see in the real world. It gets very, very crowded on track, even with the groups being split up, even with only 12 or 13 drivers on track at one moment. This is a short track. There's not a lot of corners. There's not a lot of space. So you're going to see drivers get frustrated. You're going to see drivers get held up. And you're going to see some drivers trying to figure out, how do I match up getting a little bit of a draft and trying to improve my lap time in that way? Because there's long straights at this track. A draft could be very, very powerful. And other drivers are thinking, how do I get out of the dirty air? How do I avoid losing all that time through the final sector where there are those tight and twisty corners, through the middle sector with the S's where you need all the downforce in the world? It's going to be a game of maybe some of those drivers who are in danger of getting bumped from the field today. They might be looking for a draft. Some of the drivers like Christian Hildgaard, who was first out on track, I think he knows he's going to make the field on raw pace, so he's just looking for clean air, and he's hoping that this will be a clean lap.
And again, once we have all the times on the board with this first banker run, be a bit of a sense for us for where that cut line could end up being. Remember, 11th position where drivers are focused towards, and already have seen about a second or so between the 9 drivers that find themselves onto the board. Make that 11 drivers now. It's Eduardo Leo, the driver that's going to be heading out to London next week for the Prodigy Draft, as one of 4 of our Prodigy Racing League participants here today, actually, that's currently on pole. Coanda Esports is Elliot Veyron behind, and then David Toth. Only 3 drivers split by a 10.5 and then a bigger margin. As expected, though, Joey, everyone on the alternate compound tire.
But this is exactly what I was talking about right here. This is the traffic that's so frustrating. You're just trying to get a clean lap in. Eduardo Leo did get a little bit of a draft. I think that's what helped him get it on pole there. But there does come a point where you're faster than the car in front. You're getting a little bit held up, and you're going to be looking for clean track, but it's so short that backing up, ditching a lap, it doesn't look like any of these guys actually want to do that. They're actually just going to come straight back to the pits, stick a new set of tires on it, and go back out there, hope to find a little bit of cleaner track. We've had so much trouble in qualifying in IndyCar this season. You think of the amount of races where Romain Grosjean and Santino Ferrucci have found each other on track and run into each other during qualifying. I wonder who the first rivalry here is going to be.
And maybe that's why Enric Andre kind of waited, right, to see if he could find complete clean air in that race clutch 303. See what he's going to be able to do. Remember, 11 cars to work their way on forward, and so in this group, there's only 2 that will miss on out. So into pit lane for the majority of the field, and in fact, look at them. Hilgard already in and out.
Yeah, he is not wasting any time. He'll be straight back out there. I like the Enric Andre strategy. It's just going to be all him. It's going to be down to how much pace does he have in that race clutch IR18 in his zone. Can he put it in the middle of the field? I don't know. It's an untested quantity, and I guess he's going to be trying to get himself some screen time, and we'll see him cross the line, I think, in a couple of moments. So that'll be the first new lap of track.
I tell you what, let's see. As the conditions do seem to cool down, there are variable conditions as well through this qualifying session to come into play. Let's ride on board with Andre and see what this opening sector looks like as the rest of the drivers build up some temperature into their tires, deep onto the brakes, into the opening corner. Avoid clipping that curb on the inside in the case of this race clutch 303. Always interesting to know setup-wise what these drivers have done in terms of mechanical grip, where they can place their cars, because, well, for the most part, you're not really worried about aeros. Flip-flop through the chicane, down the back straightaway, tidy opening sector to say the least.
Now the second most important braking zone, right here at the end of Holman Boulevard. A little bit more open than turn 1, a little bit lower of a braking zone than turn 1, but still heavy on the brakes, carrying speed through the S's. There's a single groove through there. Very difficult to run side by side through there, and nailing that in qualifying. Very, very important. Then out of turn 9, hoping you don't get into the grass, because you stick 2 wheels out there, you're instantly spinning. Then the third heaviest braking zone in the track. Very rarely a passing zone, but very occasionally you'll see someone send it in there into turn 12, then set up turn 13. Do you go with a wide entry? Do you go with the shallow entry? It's a debate with many drivers. And then through the final corner, set it up, hop over the curb, and then just as he reaches traffic, he's going to finish his lap and even get a little bit of draft for the line. This has been perfectly timed for Henrik Andre.
For a second, I didn't think that lap was going to count because he went so wide through the long right-hander at the end that wiggle almost sent him into grass, but no, he's okay and puts himself up into 10th and around, half a second clear of Blaise Andric and Andrew Marquez right now, who's crossing the line in the Madworks with SC, the Skowers entry, excuse me. Blaise Andric, the independent driver behind him, crosses the line. So, not sure exactly how much time is left. I think we've just seen the 1-minute warning. And so right now, the flying lap that drivers are on will count. Not many will get to start another flying attempt.
You got to make it to the line. Elliot Veyron here. Very solid position. Needs to find an extra 10th. Alex Van de Sant potentially in danger. He is about 4/10 over the bump line, over Blaise Andric, but that's still not a comfortable position. You want to be a little bit further ahead. Let's see what he can do here. Coming out of the final corner, he's got the glaucoma background going. He's bringing it all the way down to the wall to try and make up any semblance of thousandths of a second. But looks like it's going to be no improvement for Van de Sant. He's going to be stressing a little bit, but if it's any solace, he is guaranteed to be ahead of Brandon Roseborough. He's down pit lane. He's going to be in real danger now.
So Diogo Pinto's gone to 5th. Andre's jumped to 9th, but as Adam Crane in the Satellite Racing number 29 demotes Pinto back down to 6th position, is that the session done and dusted because the checkered flag is out? Marquez is on a lap that will count. Is it going to be a good one? Here he comes in the 63. He's got to find about, half a second or so, breaks the timing beam to find some improvement in time, but not in position.
And unfortunately, not enough to jump Blaise Andric and not enough to make the field. Blaise knows he's not going to improve either. He's down pit lane. Unfortunately, those are going to be the 2 bumps from the field, and Alex Van de Sant gets to breathe a slight sigh of relief. He's survived, as has Brandon Roseborough.
There is a look at the results. Eduardo Leo, independent driver, but is working with his former Altus Esports teammate. It's Coanda Drago, 2 satellite entries, and then the rest of those behind. Remember, Van de Sant slips on in, as does Brandon Roseborough, as a reserve driver, unfortunately, for Blaise Andric and for Andrew Marquez. That is the day, unfortunately, done for them. Such is the brutality of this bumping qualifying system, and that fastest lap from Leo as well, coming, I think, in that second run, gives us an indication, Joey, of exactly what to expect as Group 2 gets ready to go off and away as well.
If you want to know how evil Arjuna and the organizers of this event are, normally bump day is only for the Indy 500. It's only when we're on the oval. The Indy GP, little bit of solace on the road course. You don't have to worry about getting kicked out of the field, but now we've brought that in. We've brought even more difficulty and peril for the drivers. We got to keep them on their toes.
So, here comes this. You just threw me totally under the bus. We'll move swiftly on from that.
There you go. And you put him in peril, Arjuna.
Off and away, just waiting for one driver to recognize that the green flag is actually gone. Oh, we've got a little bit of now drama on pit lane. Not ideal, to say the very least. It's cost them a couple of probably crucial seconds as well. It's Jaden Munoz in the Williams Esports 124.
I don't know. Has his battery run out? He's towed it back to the pits to hopefully get it back out there, but that's slightly awkward for Jaden Munoz. I don't know if he was just waiting to get at the back of the line and get in the back of the train, maybe get a little bit of a draft, or maybe it was just a technical failure. Maybe that's why he's towed back. I hope it's not a technical issue because he does not have many more minutes to recalibrate the things he needs to recalibrate and get back out there. So good luck, Jaden Munoz. He's probably scrambling right now. I think even more peril.
I think what may have happened there may have turned the car off.
Oh, dear.
And, we're not in the hybrid era just yet of these Dallara iRacings. We're not far away from it, but at least for the time being, Jaden Munoz might have just learned a very, very painful penalty as I don't know if he'll be able to head back out for the rest of the session now. You can't tow in in qualifying. It's one of the other things that makes this qualifying so precarious and jeopardous. I don't even know if that's a word, Joey. You can tell me if it's not.
It is now. It is now. I buy it.
I think some of the drivers, by the way, are coming down pit
Jeopardy.
lane.
Coming down pit lane already. That's not good news, but it's good news that we get to see Mr. Josh Chin out on track, getting his good TV time. Speaking of tons of experience in not only IndyCar machinery, but basically the entirety of the road to Indy on iRacing. I know he's very fast in one of those USF Pro 2000 cars, formerly Indy Pro 2000 cars. So put him in an open wheel car, and Josh Chin's probably going to be pretty strong. But double box here, both these guys I think are going to be in contention for probably the top 5. Definitely not in contention for getting bumped from the field, but we'll see how they do as the first 2 times start flowing in.
Yeah, they will be the first. I've seen a couple of drivers roll back out of pit lane just now, so they aren't going to get as many runs as maybe they had expected, but they'll still get a chance to go out there and set a time. Josh Chin, though, in the private label team height with Power Slide Machine. There's a new team affiliation, of course, behind the scenes for him. Jumps his way into what is now second in the group. Eduardo Leo's time still holds quite strong, though. You can see on the left side it's showing Costantini as 38 thousandths off of what Leo had done. So right now, Group 1, those would be drivers in the quote-unquote best of the groups to start in.
And multiple Coanda cars in this group, so it may get a bit confusing to see similarly painted cars. Michele Costantini, you've got Michael Romanidis in the 53. I'll be looking closely. I'll be staring at these cars to see if I can find any differentiation and any changes. Romanidis has the black VRS on the side. I don't know if Costantini's.
I'll answer your question.
Different.
I don't think they are any different.
They're not any different? Oh, dear. Well, we'll figure it out.
The only benefit is they've got different numbers, and I put their name on the shark fin. So if the eagle-eyed amongst you are looking, maybe there is something to keep an eye on. Left side, by the way, you can see only 9 times on the board. Jacob Oster, the final of those drivers right now, as Jose Soria in the Drago Racing number 25 to 3rd. Here comes Kevin Burrell, though, in the Indy Alliance Racing entry. He's one that will be looking to try and advance. Sam Michaels, Gustavo Ariel, and Jaden Munoz, the other drivers yet to set times. Still unsure as to what the situation is with Munoz.
Through the chicane for Kevin Burrell, looking very much under control, but it's easy to pick up an off track around here. It's easy to get a lap time disallowed. There's a lot of asphalt runoff. There's a lot of grass runoff that you can stick a tire or 2 in, and that can tend to disallow your lap time. But Kevin coming through the middle sector here, throwing it into turn 9. It's such a switchback of a middle sector. You're constantly on the move. You're constantly setting up for the next corner. You get to breathe a little bit as you send it back onto the oval, and then heavy on the brakes in turn 12. Can't clip that curb on the inside. It'll throw the car up in the air, and it never tends to land in the way you want. Then Kevin goes for a little bit of an early apex into the penultimate corner. Then it's flat out through the final corner in clean air. No need to lift, no need to do anything. It is all the way to the line, shifting up, full 6th gear eventually after the line. Kevin, I think, a little bit of a nod of the head there. See his lap time coming in for P7, though. That's pretty good, so he might be unhappy with it, but he should be safely in the field with that.
Confirmation, by the way, Jaden Munoz, he stalled it on the exit of pit lane, and so that's him done for the session. It means pressure built now onto Matt Taylor and to Jacob Oster, who are just on the cut line. Matt Taylor has got to find 83 thousandths of a second. Jacob Oster needs to find a little bit more, yes, but these are the margins we're talking about to get into the race. And of course, in the race for pole position, let's not forget the likes of Costantini firing up for what will be, I'm pretty sure, the final attempt to go fast.
Yeah, this should be fun. Michele versus Michael. It's a battle of the Michaels with different European spellings. Michele coming out of the final corner, getting blinded by his monitor, but it's not doing him any disservice. He was definitely setting up the final corner there. I don't believe this is going to be a timed lap. He was very, very late to the final apex of turn 14, setting it up for the highest possible speed down the front stretch. And now he is on the clock. One more lap. He's already on pole. He's already the fastest of anybody, even in Group 1. He's trying to dunk on the field. He's trying to run away because Romanidis has more in the tank.
Yeah, we need to teach Jose Soria, by the way, camera placement and how to frame himself, but
we got the most important half of his head.
both he and Costantini working through. Now, there was a bit of damage on the left side pod for Costantini, hoping that's not necessarily too much of an impact for him in this point in the session. And speaking of impacts, let's go back to the replay. Josh Chins had a bit of a moment here coming out of the opening couple of corners.
Oh dear, into turn 2, clips the grass a little bit. When you have a sector like the first sector where you're constantly on the move, you're constantly switching from taking a left, taking a right, taking a left, taking a right, the balance of weight shifts so quickly that if you put 2 wheels on the grass, you put the coefficient of frictions into peril as well. They're 2 different things. Balance of weight's 2 different things. You're gonna be looping around. It's a lot of physics getting thrown together, and that's not always a fun time inside the cockpit.
Here he comes, Costantini to the line, already pole in group. Oh, he's still shy, though, of where Eduardo Leo was, so Leo holds on. Group 1 still fastest. Luis Nunez, he jumps to 7th, and the Wave Italy racing car, Marcos Nunez, behind him. On track at least in the fiercely forward entry, and now the pressure racks up once again for those just on the cut line. Josh Thompson bails down onto pit lane as Long Neck doesn't need to be risked out there any much longer. Who else runs to the line? Pair of Coanda cars. Ajani up to 3rd. Romanidis stays in 2nd.
Yeah, 46 thousandths. It's absolutely nothing. He's going to be so unhappy with 46 thousandths. Matt Taylor could bump Jacob Oster out of the field. Sam Michaels just went back to pit lane. He's not going to make it, but Matt Taylor, that was his final attempt, and it looks like it's not going to be enough for him either. Jacob Oster gets to breathe a slight sigh of relief now.
Oh, and was that some frustration from Jose Soria? Did he think he could go even faster? It's not a bad time by any means. He's within 2/10 of Costantini. Is there anyone else that has a chance to set a time? No, Nunez has bailed down to pit lane, so that's Group 2 done and dusted. And wow, Sam Michaels, Matt Taylor, and Jaden Munoz, the drivers that miss out from this respective part of the qualifying session. Quick confirmation of those results and the margins between them, especially the 3 Coanda drivers locking out the top 3 spots in this group. Drago and fiercely forward, Soria and Nunez 4th and 5th. Gustavo Ariel and his teammate Josh Thompson for Team Redline make it forward as well. And you make it down to the final driver to advance. Jacob Oster for Team I5G, Movano Corsa, and Madworks, Michaels and Taylor. Unfortunately missing out, and the fast frenetic action, well, it continues. Joey, one final group rolling out onto track.
And hopefully slightly less issues with the exit of pit lane than we had in the previous group. Hopefully it's a little bit smoother. Unfortunately, we did in fact lose Jaden Munoz due to the incident towing back on the exit of pit lane, which is a shame. He would have been a very strong competitor today, but we will see him, I'm sure, in the coming rounds in later in the season. So look out for Jaden Munoz to come back. Look for him to make a very strong comeback. But this is some of the most exciting. This is one of the most exciting groups, I'd say, because 13 more drivers, maybe even a full 14. Not seeing if everybody's out there, but Peter Berryman, incredibly strong in open wheel machinery. Phil Kraus, Robert Malechka, more of the IndyCar regulars. Cy Andra is back, and the phenom, very young Xander Reed. That's 5 drivers. That's about a third of the field. And I could tell you the same things about 10 more of them.
You want to know something quite interesting about one driver in this particular field right now? Ryan Barneveld usually races, of course, from Europe. Not today. Do you want to know where he's racing from?
The moon.
Oh, I wish that would be quite the story. NASA hasn't quite invented the spacecraft, racecraft, however you want to call it, to get a rig to orbit yet. No, that is Phil Dinez's rig. Ryan Barneveld made his way over to California for his yearly week-long trip, and so racing from Phil's rig as he gets ready to go.
Is that the garage?
I think so. Nice.
The bedroom / garage. That's prime sim racing stuff right there. It's no racecraft, spacecraft, but I think that might be worth a couple extra tenths.
I'm just saying, can you imagine how cool a racecraft, spacecraft would be? I mean, it would look something like an IndyCar, wouldn't it?
I'll be first on the list.
If I'm making it, I don't think you want to be first on that list.
That's true.
Yeah, no. There are jokes that I could make, but I don't want to make because it might end my broadcast career. This is maybe a group where I have no idea how it's going to go. We watched Sayandra carve his way through the S's. This is where you got to maintain that momentum. And again, everyone on these alternate tires, you're just trying to use and abuse them as much as you can for one flying run. Bring it back down to pit lane, go out once again, and hope you get a whole bunch of clean air out on track, down towards the final corner. Looks relatively tidy, I've got to say, for Andra as he picks up the power. A little bit of a wiggle, a little bit of a hesitation as he makes his way around to see the yard of bricks, to see Barney the flagman, and to see a time put onto the board. What's it going to be with a 109.485, the benchmark? Syandra a little bit down from where he'd want to be. Where's the rest, though? Going to place themselves Xander Reed, 109.868.
Syandra, one of the most experienced drivers in the field in terms of years of competition on iRacing, also a sometimes sim racing commentator, so definitely going to be looking for him to use some of that experience. But that first lap, it's not looking great as times start to flow in. Great lap from Phil Kraus to put at P3. Pablo Espez understandably up in P2. Xander Reed, we're going to be saying that name so many times this season. It is no surprise to see him in P1. Wilson Nito, though, P10, not far off. Basically a 10th off of Syandra. It's going to be very, very close for the bump line in this one. You got 4 drivers down at the bottom separated by a 10th.
So Sam Koitert's jumped his way onto the board. Seb Alexander is currently out on track. Matt Pavelski, who is one of our invited drivers, can't do the entire season, former iRacing Indy 500 winner, but it's great to have him out on track for one of the few races that he can do. So Alexander now to 12th. So Xavi Ross, Pavelski, the only 2 yet to put a time on the board. And interesting, maybe you notice in terms of as well the amount of sky and light from the sky that was being baked down onto the track. It's a little brighter. Track temperature may be rising a little bit, and time's definitely a bit slower in this third and final group.
Yeah, it's looking a little bit like the Indy 500 in some parts of the sky. It's a little bit gray, it's a little bit cloudy, but others it looks perfectly serviceable. A little bit of trouble through turn 12. Very, very easy to make that mistake. That's Oscar Bixrud in the 79. Luckily, it didn't matter. He was going straight back to pit lane, but it's a late braking zone. You can brake later than you'd think, but you can also outbrake yourself very easily because you think you can stop later than you actually can, and then you realize about halfway through the braking zone that I'm not making this corner. I'm gonna have to send it off the road. So Oscar Bixrud getting the mistakes out of the way in qualifying. It's a good place to start.
Peter Behrman racing from the Apex Racing Team facility in Corby. He's gonna head out there for yet another run as he revs the engine. Of course, iRacing World Champion in the Force Dynamics IRO1 World Championship. I had to make sure I got that name correct and double check it as I said it. See what he can do in this next run. Currently 4th behind Phil Kraus. And, you know, we've been mentioning, by the way, that, this is a bit of a matchup, right, of the iRacing IndyCar specialists with some of the best that iRacing has to offer, the Berrymans, the Pintos, the world champions of the world. I think Kraus will be thrilled, Joey, with that effort so far. 69 thousandths off of Xander Reed. Nice.
Yeah. Phil has absolutely shown, I think he's shown the best of any of our IndyCar regulars so far, being this close, but not really a surprise. Whether it's oval prowess, whether it's road course prowess, it was his streak in the Lionheart IndyCar series a couple of years ago when it was like 19 out of 20 races on the podium. It's good to be surprised, but I don't think it is much of a surprise to see Phil Kraus doing very well. It'll be a surprise if he puts it on pole, but I'm very happy to see him living up to expectations so far.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things where, especially heading into the qualifying series for the IndyCar Pro Championship coming up, what's that going to end up looking like? Can't wait to see how the qualifiers go. Coverage to come on RaceSpotTV as Pavelski to the line. And with a 1:10.754, does indeed jump his way up into the field. So, as Xavi Ross does so as well, we now officially, Pavelski taking avoiding action through the grass, officially have a cut line and a battle. Oscar Bixrud, Wilson Nato, and Seb Alexander currently looking from the outside in.
And Sam Karasala and Syandra, and even Pavelski for that matter, not going to be feeling especially comfortable. A tenth and a half, that is not a lot of time to make up if you're some of those 3 guys on the bottom. And Karasala knows that. That's why he's pushing here. He's going for another lap, and he's going to be trying to extend that gap a little bit. Maybe get himself a little bit closer to the 8th, 7th, 6th range to be a little bit safer and not be worrying about the 3 guys coming up behind. But Oscar Bixrud doesn't have anything to worry about from behind. He can only worry about forward. He's looking on the offense, and I was exactly right that was one of the Scandinavian drivers with the wood paneling. Is there Norway he can make the field, or is there a way? Let's see.
Not bad. I'll give you that pun. I don't know if that was necessarily the fastest time that Bickford could set, but I don't think he's going to get time to go once again. Checkered flag is now officially out, and while Bickford has jumped his way on in, who else has got a chance to improve? I think that's Phil Kraus streaking to the line in the private label team hype with power slide entry. He'll stay third. Barneveld went up to fifth, and with the session officially coming to a close, Karasala improves. There's clearly time still left on track.
Karasala improves, but then suddenly Robert Malechka says, no, you're not improving at all. I'm going to jump you too. Sam Coitert up to P2, and now Wilson Nito. Matt Pavelski's down pit lane. He's officially bumped. Wilson Nito improves, but I don't think that's enough of an improvement to jump his way in. I think he's done, but now Seb Alexander, the Swedish television graphics operator, not biased at all. Can he pull it off and pull about 5/10 here?
What's it going to be? Runs to the line behind him. Satellite Racing's number 24 of Andra. Alexander improves, but not by enough. Session's going to come to a close with officially now our field, I think, locked and loaded. Don't think Ryan Barneveld's going to get another lap in. Indeed, he's already backed off. Wow, our first qualifying session of the season, Joey, is done and dusted, and I can only expect they're going to get more and more intense from here.
We've already had heartbreak today, we've already had peril, we've already had surprising bumps, and somehow we're going to have to do a race in about 15 minutes. We're going to have even more trouble. Normally after the heartbreak of bump day, you get a week off, you get to calm down, you get to get ready for the race. Now we'll take 15 minutes, we'll take our bathroom breaks, we'll take our refreshment breaks, and then we'll have to be ready for a full race distance, and I'm very, very excited.
So, Xander Reed, Sam Coitert, Pablo Espes, fastest three in this group. Xander Reed to line up, I believe, in third position when we get this race underway, with Group 1 being fastest, Group 2 being the second quickest, and Group 3 the third quickest. Kraus, Berryman, Barneveld, Ross, Malechka, Karasala, and Andra all inside the top 10, and the final driver just making their way on through. It's Oscar Bickford with Pavelski, Nato, and Alexander missing out. Well, that's qualifying done and dusted. The racing still left to come. Green flag expected in around 20 minutes time, but don't go anywhere here on VCO Esports and on RaceSpotTV. We'll be back with the racing action. Time for us now to go off and grab a quick break, wipe off the sweat, and get ready to go for 75 laps of racing action here at the racing capital of the world.
The sky so far, but I can't lose it. sky so far, but I can't lose it.
We've seen drama already through qualifying. It's time to throw the green flag on racing in the first round of the VCO IndyCar Challenge powered by Open Wheels. Arjuna Kankipati alongside of Joey Tebbin, ready to walk you through all of the action. And Joey, there's already been a bit of shake-up after the results of qualifying. Drivers getting, unfortunately, disqualified, other drivers getting promoted, and our field of 33 ready to race at the racing capital of the world.
I'll say that word peril 4 more times. You never know when you're going to be ready. You never know what's going to happen. And that's going to be especially true with the race start coming in just a few moments. And this entire field, hundreds of thousands of race starts and iRating points and everything. It's the best of the best, and they're all going to be funneled into turn 1 in just a matter of moments. They've been split up into 3 groups for qualifying. That's done. They've all been merged together. The zipper has been concluded, and it always ends up dramatic in turn 1, no matter what happens at the Indy road course.
This Indy road course, of course, that got remodified a couple of years ago after, let's be honest, plenty of time in a format that me and many others did not necessarily appreciate. We don't blast our way through turns 1 and 2 in the wrong direction. Instead, now we've got a chicane to interrupt the flow of that final sector, but to provide an extra passing opportunity. Joey, what do you think we're going to be in for as the drivers get their way down to the grid and get ready to go racing?
Well, there's 3 very important passing zones: turn 1, turn 7, and turn 12. You're going to be looking at those all race long. I already mentioned turn 1. That is the pinch point on lap 1. That's always the trouble spot, especially with a field as big as this. There's always something that tends to go wrong in turn 1. Then turn 7, that's going to be one of your most popular race time passing zones. It's very good to get on the push to pass out of that chicane. If the driver in front of you has bad exits, set it up, dive it to the inside, and then turn 12. Late moves always open there. And then there's always the drivers who get a little bit crazy and go for some inopportune moves at some other places. It's a very racy track. It was designed by IndyCar drivers to be racy, so we're going to be in for a very good show today.
And, some of these changes bring forward that raciness as well, so going to be exciting. Looking forward to it. Let's take you down trackside, though, for the first time this season. Let's see how they're going to line up for the start of 75 laps at the beginning of the VCO IndyCar Challenge powered by Open Wheels. Eduardo Leo, fastest of them all in his independent entry, and alongside the might of Coanda Esports, who are 2nd through 5th on the qualifying lineup. Costantini, Reed, Veyron, and Johnny all looking to try and put the pressure on Sam Coiter. Team Redline's first to try and break up the fun. 7th for David Toth in his Drago racing car. Marcos Nunes is 8th for Fiercely Forward, Pablo Espes, and Christian Hilgard, the rest of the top 10. It's Gustavo Ariel back in 11th with Philip Kraus 12th in the private label teammate with Powerslide entry. Adam Crane and Josh Chin share row 7. Plenty of experience in this car between them. And then world champions on row 8. Peter Berryman, Diogo Pinto. World champions in different disciplines, yes, but strength nonetheless. Kevin Burrell, Ryan Barnabell, 17th and 18th spots. To bookend the top 20, it's Danny Lorenzo and Josh Thompson with Javi Ross, Christian Steele, Jacob Oster, and Robert Malechka through your top 24 as we start to see more of the iRacing IndyCar regulars. Enric Andre and Sam Michaels are 25th and 26th, with Sam Carousel, Alex Van der Sant, Matt Taylor, and Cy Andre your top 30, and just 3 more to rumble. Brandon Roseborough, Jaden Munoz makes it into the field, and then Oscar Bixford looking to whip up some success from the back in his chef's coat and in that Nitro Circus sim racing machine, hoping to maybe do a little less nitro crossing like we saw from him in the qualifying session. What a stats grid. So excited about what we've got on deck. And Joey, as ever, let's take a look at the wall of faces. Some nervous, I'm sure, some ready to go racing, but 75 laps lie in front of these drivers.
See a little bit of tension on the faces of some of those drivers, but in general, you see a lot of readiness. I see Sam Coiter with the blonde hair in the middle of the field. He's ready. He is stacked up, and he's prepared for this. You got all the way down in the bottom left. Ryan Barneveld is buried in Phil Krause's garage. I don't see my favorite Norwegian wood paneling from Oscar Bixrud, but you know he's somewhere. He'll be cycling through. You got a very well-lit setup behind one of those drivers. I didn't see who that was with the neon, but these are some very well-prepared drivers. But there's nothing that can prepare you for funneling into turn 1 with 33 drivers. You just got to do that in the moment. You got to be ready.
There's our pole sitter, Eduardo Leo. He's got the privilege, the opportunity to lead us to the green, and no longer with Altus Esports. What's he got in store? He'll be at the Prodigy Giraffe next week to hopefully sign a real racing contract to race in the Prodigy 3 racing series later this year. Costantini alongside as challenged at the front of iRacing Indy 500's plenty. Xander Reed, that's driver that we maybe haven't seen too much of in this car so much. We get used to that name, as I think we could say for Elliot Veron as well, as the field streaks off and away. It's time to put you all on the spot. If you're watching on VCO Esports on RaceSpotTV, let us know who you think's going to win this race. I'm going to go first up here in the booth, Joey. I'm going to let you have a chance to sit and to think. My prediction for the victory here today, it's going to be a bold one, but I'm going with Eduardo Leo.
I don't know. I mean, now that he's an independent driver, I'll be interested to see how that alters his approach.
No, that was not good, Joey. I can't let that one stand. The pun before was not bad. We're not letting that one stand.
I'll tell you who my pick is, Arjuna. We've talked so much today already about the battle between the IndyCar regulars and the iRacing world champions, but there's also a battle of youth versus experience. You've got some older drivers, you got some drivers in their 30s who have been doing this for a while. Also got a driver, Xander Reed, fastest in his group, starting third. He's only 14 years old. He's still been racing for about 10 years in motocross and karting and all sorts of things, and recently becoming a sim racing prodigy and signing for Coanda. I don't know what's going to be the best thing here. Do you want that youth? Do you want that experience? I'm always leaning towards youth. I'm always leaning towards the underdogs and the newcomers, so I'm picking Xander Reed for my winner today.
Okay, Xander Reed from third. Not a bad starting spot, and again, that final session was quite warm. Something to talk about as well, because we do have to use both compound of tires. The alternates, red sidewall, slightly softer but less durable, are going to be faster at the very start, maybe fall off. Not necessarily the favored tire over the course of the entire race. Only 3 drivers, though, Joey, at least curiously, starting on the primaries. Javi Ross in 21st, Enric Andre in 25th, and Brandon Roseborough in 31st. Everyone else thinks the primaries where they need to start.
And by the way, in units that people of Indiana will understand, that was 117 degrees Fahrenheit track temp, so it's going to be getting very hot. Those tires are going to be struggling through the high-speed corners. Tire strategy, always the name of the game in IndyCar, with those alternates and those primaries. But turn one's going to be the name of the game in just a couple of moments. Remember a couple of years ago when Devlin DiFrancesco went from 6th to 1st around the outside in turn 1? That's a long front straight. You get a big draft there. If you can be brave on the brakes, you can make something big happen into turn 1. Eduardo Leo is maybe the least comfortable driver in the field right now, starting from first.
Well, here we go. Pace car is off and away, and don't forget, your leader's not totally in control. He's got to wait to the start zone. Is he going to fend them a little bit longer? It's a long run down to the opening corner. And it's a long season as well. 6 races, $7,000 on the line, and the most stacked field of IndyCars iRacing has ever seen. World champions, iRacing Indy 500 winners, we've got them all. And a stack up behind, and a crash already. Oh, drivers forgetting how to start races. It's BS competition, and Danny Lorenzo, they get mixed up. But off to the opening corner, a tight right-hander, 3 wide between Coanda Esports teammate for second position. Eduardo Leo leads the field through the opening corner. Malechka runs a little bit wide, deeper in the pack. But amidst all the chaos across the yard of bricks, it's cleaned up through the opening couple of corners.
Surprisingly calm into turn 1. You didn't see those massive dives. You didn't see that 3 wide into turn 1. Everybody did a good job of organizing themselves, as one of the red line drivers is slow at the back. I believe that's Josh Thompson or Diogo Pinto. Either one of them stuck at the back now. Early trouble for Daniel Alves Lorenzo before turn 1 even came. Other than that, though, very clean, very well driven. And now we try and cycle into the rhythm for 74 more laps.
And well, I'm quite amazed that that did not trigger a caution and that we don't have a stricken car. Remarkable. This is a 75-lap race. How long will it take us? All depends on how many safety cars we're going to see. Xavi Ross has also slipped down the running order, so a rather untidy opening lap, all things considered, but we're going to end it single file up front. A little bit fighting further back through the pack. It's Leo for Costantini. Coitert holding on strong and depriving Gianni of joining his Coanda Esports teammate at the front. Here comes the challenge, though, from Coitert. Looking to the inside of Xander Reed. Will he get the move done? Yes, he does.
Red line breaking up the Coanda Armada side by side a little bit further back as well with Michael Johnny and Gustavo Ariel. It's red line versus Coanda all throughout the field, and Gustavo Ariel takes that spot for P7 for P7 up 4 spots. Trouble for the purple mobile a little bit further back. I think that was Josh Chin. You can see he's 12 spots down. That's what a spin early on will do for you. You've got plenty of time to make up for that, but if you spin early, you're going all the way to the back.
Well, we've got 5 drivers minus 10 or more spots, And 5 drivers in pit lane: Jacob Oster, Diogo Pinto, Kevin Burrell, Danny Lorenzo, and Xavi Ross. Is it time for us to try and figure out what happened on the all-seeing, ever-present RaceSpotTV replay machine as we end lap number 2 with Leo really feeling the pressure? Joey, look from up above.
Look for Daniel Alves Lorenzo. There's the checkup. Surprisingly more drivers involved after that. When we originally saw that, it looked like it was just Daniel, so I was fine with there not being a caution. But Jacob Oster comes onto the scene. Kevin Burrell was on the scene. I think Xavi Ross took a bite out of that as well, and just look at the height that Lorenzo gets there. Wheel-to-wheel contact. It may be the race start, but you're still at a pretty high speed there, and there's the result of what happens when you don't have a front wing and you don't have a rear wing. You know, there's some cars that don't have those wings. You might think that a wingless sprint car is pretty fast, but these cars were kind of designed to have those wings. They're kind of important, and Josh Chin, unfortunately, no result of contact. He learns the ultimate Indy GP lesson. Those giant curbs at turn 1 and at turn 12, you can't throw the car over them, because when you land, the car's unsettled and you're going to be spinning around.
So is Sam Coitert now up to 3rd position. He's making moves. So is Peter Berryman, or at least trying to make some moves up and down through the field. There is action, and it's a long conga line that runs right now. And so when we start thinking strategy, it's what, 25 or so laps in terms of a fuel window here. I don't know if we're really going to be talking about gaps for these drivers to drop into, Joey, because they're also close on times. They're also closely matched on speed. There's fighting up and down through the field no matter where you look. Look at the heart of the pack.
Christian Hildgaard in the teal and red satellite racing entry. Looks like there might be some damage on that front wing. Yes, there is, as he comes around the final corner, missing the right side of the front wing and suffering greatly in terms of downforce. You saw how wide he got out of the final corner. Van de Sant's going to get by him. Jaden Munoz is going to get by him as well. That's unfortunate for Christian Hildgaard. Had a great run in the first group of qualifying, but he is going to be suffering with that broken front wing, and that's going to totally decimate that strategy. He's got to think about coming down pit lane potentially this time around and going from here, because he's going to be suffering with half a front wing for 20 more laps. I don't know, that might be race over.
That's not uncomfortable by any means. Ariel slips past David Toth, another driver who is going to be part of that Prodigy draft in a week's time. He was the winner of the Prodigy Chase competition as well, so might expect him to be one of the top draft picks. He just passed a driver that's got a podium, though, in the Iro 1 World Championship back when that used to run, and we ride with the Drago racing car. New look livery for them as well. I've got to say, there's no scales across of it. Still looks quite great.
I do miss the scales. I've always been a fan of the Drago racing scales, but I'm glad they found a nice lotion. They figured out their issues. They rubbed that on the livery, and their scales are all gone. They got perfectly clear red skin now. And Drago Racing, the team of 2024, maybe we could say.
Yeah, well, 2023. 2024 is going quite well for them as well. 2023 was their breakout year. That's not Xander Reed, by the way. That is still David Toth on the bottom of your screen. But Xander Reed now slowly sliding backwards on race pace, maybe struggling a bit on the balance of these alternate tires as the wear pattern starts to influence the speed. Are starting to see the separations build, though. Not at the front. Eduardo Leo just continuing to absorb that pressure. Not really showing that it's breaking him right now. Onto the 6th lap of the race next time by.
He's done a very good job, but there was a little bit of a worry there at the end of Holman Boulevard in the braking zone. I think he clipped the grass a little bit coming into the corner. Got to be careful doing that. That'll unsettle the rear of the car, but seems to have things under control. Don't see too much pressure on that face. I don't see much of Michele Costantini's face at all, because he's
shining
being blinded
bright
by the light, Manfred Mann style, but he's certainly shadowing him. Unfortunately, there's no shadows on his face, but he is shadowing Eduardo Leo in the virtual world, at least.
And you've got Coitert, Veyron, Ariel all within 1.6 seconds of your leader. This is going to be close. And because Indy's got such a long straight as well, it's not as long as it used to be, yes, I know, but draft plays its part. We've got 10 seconds covering 19 machines. Remember, we expect the fuel window to be around 25 laps or so 20 more laps to go. Can tell you that Christian Hildgaard did come down pit lane and leave with a new front wing. Jacob Oster did the same. Xavi Ross, Danny Lorenzo, slightly longer times in pit lane. Might be Diogo Pinto and Kevin Burrell, retired though in the opening lap of this race.
By the way, Arjuna, if I ever say Christian Lundgaard today instead of Christian Hildgaard, I'll donate $5 into the VCO charity fund.
Okay, got it.
Keep myself real.
There's Rob Malechka in the bottom right. Adam Crane alongside him. Of course, the double iRacing Indy 500 champion Rob Malechka winning both the fixed and the open 500s on the same weekend. We'll see how it goes for him here, though, in terms of road course competition. He's been slowly getting better since he joined up with Powerslide Motorsports a year and a bit ago, now linked up with Phil Kraus, the private label Team Hype contingent as well. Can only go from strength to strength. And speaking of Phil Kraus, by the way, is Jaden Munoz. His charge through the field after starting at the very back has now seen him rise up to 16th spot. Phil Kraus inside of the top 10, the best of the iRacing IndyCar regulars, you'd say.
Doing a very solid job. Maybe a little bit lower in the field than he was expecting. He was very fast in qualifying. He was P3 for the longest time before getting bumped down a little bit, but that's kind of the part of that three-part qualifying format you had. You may have been third fastest in your group. You may have even been first fastest in your group, but if you're fastest in your group, if you're third fastest in terms of being the third fastest group, that means you only get to start third. That means Phil Kraus only got to start 9th or 10th, so you had to be fast in general, not just fast in your group. And right now, in the middle of the field, he's in a little bit of a draft train right now. Probably not going to be able to do much in terms of the dirty air, in terms of the cars in front of him also having a draft, but he's hunting, he's riding right now, probably saving a little bit of fuel. And once that pit strategy rolls around, you know Phil loves a good old IndyCar pit strategy. Look for him to be keeping that experience in the old brain box and using that to move forward.
Yeah, as long as he doesn't have Jason Brophy-style pit incidents in trying
Hopefully
to get
not.
onto the lane. You did hear a bit of fuel saving, but I don't think there is much of that going on right now. You can use some of the fuel maps to influence your mileage as well. Bottom right corner of your screen, the track map tells you all you need to know about how long this train really rides. And the view from the pagoda, that's not a bad view right now, is it?
No.
Have you had the
looking
chance to
clear.
go up there?
I didn't get to go up to the pagoda, but I did see Indy from the plane. See them down, or you see when you see the Indianapolis Motor Speedway from a plane window, you see the whole thing. It always looks fantastic. From the suites in turn 2, you can see the whole golf course. It's like insanely manicured. It's absolutely perfect. If Roger Penske, he does a good job. He gets those lawnmowers out there. He makes it look good.
Hey, no. Give the credit where it's due. Tony Kanaan.
Doug Bowles.
No, Tony Kanaan.
Tony Kanaan and Doug Bowles.
Yeah,
the lawn mowing service.
No, to be fair, Doug Bowles does deserve quite a lot of the credit as well.
He's probably out there with the lawnmower himself.
Right now. Yeah, no, to be fair, he's probably out there on the weekend helping out.
He's probably listening to
Here
this
we
stream
go.
right now.
Move for the lead, Sam Coitert. Jinx to the inside only of Costantini. Gustavo Ariel's gone forward past Veyron as well. Kawanda quick in qualifying. Redline fast in race trim. And now, what will they do sitting behind Eduardo Leo?
The big move from Coitert. It's been big moves all race long. If I'm remembering correctly, he started P6, so up 4 spots. He's constantly been making overtakes, and those tires seem very, very comfortable. Eduardo Leo has seemed very comfortable in the lead. He hasn't been scared by the attacks from behind, but you never know. You never know with Sam Coitert. He's been an overtaker. He's been moving forward. He's not been happy to be riding in line. So if he gets the opportunity to get by Eduardo Leo, if he gets the opportunity to go for a dive into turn 1, I wouldn't be surprised if he goes for it. He's been faster than Leo every single lap for the last couple of laps. He might want to lead.
And I've got to say as well that there was a lot of fuel saving when we rode on board with Eduardo Leo. Not necessarily sure what sort of a number he's thinking he needs to hit, but he's clearly being quite aggressive with the fuel save. Now, I have not seen a single usage of the push-to-pass yet. I'm going to pop that up on the left side of the screen. No, I am wrong. David Toth and Xander Reed have used 1. Berryman's used 2. Thompson's used 1 as well. Why is that important, Joey? Well, A, you only get 10 usages across the entire race. B, it does sip just that little bit more fuel if you're trying to eke out some mileage.
Yeah, the unfortunate reality of push to pass is that it isn't actually just a magic button that you press and it makes you go faster. There is actually a physical thing that happens inside the engine to make you go faster. You burn more fuel, you get extra RPM, and you go faster. That's kind of what happens. So if you do push that push to pass button, it will expend a little bit more fuel, and that's why you see, unfortunately, sometimes you get to the end of a race and drivers are saving. They're trying to make it to the end, and they want to use the push to pass. They want to be able to go for the move, and they simply can't. It'll expend too much fuel, and even if you make the position on track, you'll be leading, and you'll have to save fuel, and you'll have to back off, and you'll lose the spot anyway. So It's just the unfortunate reality of pushed pass being an actual thing that happens inside the engine, and it's just another part of the fuel calculation you have to consider.
And no egregious lines of code to worry about either here. In the sim, they all have the identical Dallara IR18s. It's just the setups and, well, weight jackers not used on the road courses. It's just ARBs instead. That's another look. Gustavo Ariel does not force the issue, though. But as Sam Coitet goes deep, Leo breaks away slightly more. It's a different line being run across the track from the red line cars. They're a little bit wider, using more of the track. Is that going to be a hit on tire life? Again, just a reminder in terms of weather, 50 degrees Celsius. It's only going to go up from here until we get into the midpoint of this race. Gustavo Ariel makes his move on Michele Costantini. Red lines at second and third. Oh, this is it's poised so finely.
50 degrees Celsius is 120 degrees Fahrenheit. So we're getting into steak territory, Arjuna. We're starting to get into safe food cooking temperatures. So imagine how the tires are getting cooked. Rubber melts at a far lower temperature than a steak does, and a steak's getting cooked at 120 degrees. Good luck keeping that under you. But Matt Taylor, good luck keeping this under him. He's said, I don't want to keep those tires under me anymore. They're wearing. I'm going off strategy. And he's going to kick off the pit cycle probably about 10 or 15 laps earlier than anybody else is.
Problem is, he's going to drop himself. Ooh, fortunately, a couple of seconds clear of your race leader. I thought he might have been involved as traffic. Toth makes the move on Veyron. Johnny passed by Kraus. Coanda slipping a little bit, unfortunately, as the private label team with Powerslide Motorsports car now up into 9th position, 3 spots gained since the start. But give a shout out to the biggest mover of the day. Didn't get to even set a lap in qualifying, but Jaden Munoz, 16 spots gained so far. Very lucky to have made the field, yes, but he's making full use of the opportunity.
Look at Kraus to the inside of Pablo Espes. He's flying right now. Got the spot on Michael Johnny into turn 1. Gets by Pablo Espes into turn 7. And now what's going to happen into turn 12? He's probably a little bit too far back to get Xander Reed, but Phil has been absolutely flying. And good old Pablo, well, he's forced to just sit back in line a little bit. Maybe latch on to the draft of Phil and hope that he can pull him forward. See those 2 tracks in the background
Whoa.
of Pablo's. Oh, and he's going to pit lane. So ignore the Nürburgring, ignore Catalunya, ignore the trophies in the background. Pablo Espes says, I'm too slow right now. I'm losing too much on these reds. He's going to take them off.
That's an interesting one, and I love this. Oh, the weather was quite intriguingly placed when it came to the way that the forecast was generated to ensure there was a little bit of crossover. Now, didn't really know the level of crossover, but we're finding out right now it's pretty severe. So, gaps opening up. Kraus is 1.5 off the back of the top 7. What's he going to be able to do to try and close? All the while, some of those other drivers try and close back up. Marcos Nunez, Peter Berryman, 10th and 11th spots. Fighting amongst one another with Josh Thompson just behind them.
I haven't seen much of Marcos Nunez today in the fiercely forward sort of bumblebee yellow and black number 95, but he's been quietly solid in a field of some of the best drivers in the world. He's one of them, and he's just quietly got on with the job. Safely made the field, has safely made some spots forward, has safely driven up to P11. In a race where we've had a little bit of trouble on lap 1, we've had a little bit of drama, being anonymous and running in the top 10 and moving forward and moving fiercely forward. That's a very good thing for Marcos Nunez to be doing right now.
It's a race as well as Gustavo Ariel next into pit lane, so he's clearly worn the alternate Firestone tires as much as possible. Thompson follows him in. This is a bit of a gambit, a call from Redline to maybe shed the tire and go over to the primary as early as possible. We've got a fascinating battle on strategy playing out. Coitet stayed out though. Does Coitet think that he can try and get the lead and control from the front? David Toth now putting the pressure onto Michele Costantini for third, chopping and changing up and down through the field as pit stops underway.
And Coitert's going to be a little bit too far back to go for the move into turn 7 this time. I'm not sure if David Toth is going to be too far back. He's actually getting pretty close in the background, and there he goes indeed. Sends it to the inside of the end of Holman Boulevard, easily makes that move. And I think just as Michele Costantini is getting ready to Toth those tires away, Toth gets by him.
And I'll give you that one. That one wasn't bad either. As they go, Ariel in clean air. I don't think Thompson will be so lucky. Espes has already blown on through. So actually, Thompson just ends up being a little bit further back as a result for how it played out in the cycle. Battle for the lead. Well, maybe not really, because here comes the taker to pit lane, Sam Coytert, 1 lap later than his Team Redline counterparts.
Kind of a surprise that he decided to go for the undercut. He was faster than Leo. He probably could have made the move on track, but says, you know what, I'm going for the undercut. Probably looked at his timing and saw that there was an open spot on track that he could end up, and he's going to try and pull off that undercut. Absolutely ice cold down there in a very small room, but I'm sure that radiator down there doing a good job cooling him down, and he gets a couple of moments to breathe. It's a very long pit lane, so you do get a little bit of a break. You can stretch your hands, stretch your wrists, stretch your fingers, because then you're back out there. Still 60 more laps to go. We're not even a quarter of the way through yet.
It's a long race as well, isn't it? 75 laps. I mean, the race lengths are not too long, not too short, in my opinion. They're just around the right length to hopefully get some pretty good action. There goes Coytert. Ariel's already passed, but slightly less aggressive radius of a corner through turn 1 on pit exit. So Coytert's right there once again, and don't think we'll see those teammates fight. Got to get the tires up to temperature. Are you surprised, or maybe not surprised, that they've made the switch onto the primaries?
I'm not surprised, but I am intrigued, because that's gonna make the strategy even more interesting. There's still 60 laps to go when you're taking the tires off on lap 15. Does that mean we're gonna be advancing into a 3-stop potentially to the end of the race? I would assume so. I would assume that's what's gonna happen, but I don't know how far you can possibly stretch it. I don't think a 2-stop is gonna be ideal for anybody, but I don't know. Eduardo Leo might be thinking about that. He's already going longer than anybody else. If he pits right now, he's basically guaranteed to lose the lead to Coytert on the undercut anyway. So if you're thinking about the end of the race, do you think about just stretching it and going for the 2-stop? I don't know. That's what Eduardo Leo's thinking right now. He may be an independent driver, but I hope he's got a strategist on his side as well who's trying to plan this.
I do get the sense, by the way, that from the start, we are going to have plenty that race control is still reviewing. I know that it was only a couple of incidents, but because it all happened on the initial start, there are plenty of rules around it, which I get the feeling not all of the drivers necessarily had 100% clarity on, and so our race control team busy behind the scenes at work as Jaden Munoz decides, well, let's come down to pit lane amongst all of this. My alternates have done enough of the fighting already. I got myself up to 11th.
And you can tell he's an American driver because it's been very, very hot, literally everywhere. It may be a big country, but it's hot everywhere. Jaden's got the fan on, sweating a little bit, wiping the brow, but he's very happy that he's made the field. Was a little bit disappointed with how things went down at qualifying, but he's made it. He's done a fantastic job of driving forward, and in a field where there are a lot of American drivers coming from our IndyCar regulars. Jaden Munoz is one of those American drivers who comes from the world of international sim racing, and he's still trying to represent Team America in his own weird way.
And in that Williams Esports jersey as well. I was wearing my Williams Esports jersey yesterday. Fits me great. Thank you, Javi at Williams, for sending that over to me. Total shill. Mainly
I'll be a shill too. I'll be a shill too. My mailbox is open.
Fair. Main reason I was saying Williams is only just because they're hosting the Prodigy Draft next week from their fan zone in London, and so if you are an international viewer, come say hi to me, to Eduardo Leo, Gustavo Ariel, who are the other prodigies that are in the field. Michael Romanidis, he didn't qualify for the race, and there's one more who I'm forgetting because David Toth down on pit lane, and that's caught my attention instead.
You can have a spot of tea with Arjuna in London if you so desire.
That was very formal.
Yes, you put the pinky up. It's very formal. But these guys they're coming down for a little bit of a high tea themselves. Maybe no tea and sugar and a scone and jam and cream or two, but definitely 4 fresh tires and a little bit of a break, a little bit of a stretch of the fingers, getting ready to get back out there. This is going to be a wide open strategy window. It may only be a 75-lap race, about 20 laps shorter than the real-life equivalent of this race, but I think this is even better for the alternate strategies here because it's a perfect split, I think, between drivers going for a 2-stop and going for a 3-stop, and we're not going to know which one's going to win out until probably about lap 60 or so when everybody makes their final stops and it all blends together.
I probably shouldn't say this, but, there's a lot of thought that goes into making these races as exciting as they can be, while also being as fun as they can be for the drivers. It's a delicate balance. You don't want to, make them do a 3-lap sprint race because that would be plenty exciting for us, but maybe not so fun for them.
How about a 33 wide start?
I mean, that's Crandon for you,
That's Crandon.
Speaking of which, we did 10 wide, 3 rows deep not long ago on RaceSpotTV. That was a lot of craziness. So Coanda 2, 3, and 4. Johnny down in 7th as well as Marcos Nunez, that is, and Alexander Van der Sant, the next 2, to make their way down onto pit lane. 18 laps complete for them.
I do wonder right now, what do Coanda have cooking? It's not going their way so far. They've got 3 cars in the top 10, probably in the top 5, but it's not quite gone their way in terms of race-winning speed. So we'll see what they have cooking in the next 55 laps. Alex Van der Sant, simple stop for him. Keeps the reds on, though. That's interesting. That's very different from a majority of the field, that Van der Sant may be trying to get those reds out of the way entirely in the first 2 stints of this race.
Costantini almost loops the rear end around on him, but kicks up some grass, holds on to it. Allows Elliot Veyron to close, Eduardo Leo to break away, but I have just seen that we've got a couple of penalties that have started to trickle on through from the initial start, and so we'll get you updates on those in a few moments' time. But those are all penalties that are not going to be served in the course of regular pit stops. They have to be served separately. An additional trip down a very long pit lane. And speaking of which, Berryman, he's next on down into the boxes. A couple of drivers on the push to pass. Adam Crane lights up in orange on the left-hand side of the screen.
Yeah, I think you'll see a lot of drivers using push to pass on their in-laps because they know they've saved all the fuel they possibly can. They're getting ready to come down, and they don't really need to worry about saving that much more fuel. But Crane getting a little bit out of shape into turn 1. That shows you how worn those tires are. Tried to get on the throttle, probably before the car was totally straight on the exit of turn 1, lights up the rear end, does a good job of saving it though, and now things are going to be that much more awkward, a little bit delicate through the chicane to make sure he doesn't spin on exit. I think he's going to be about ready to get those tires off and come down pit lane, and I'd also like to take this moment to thank Satellite Racing. All 3 of their cars, totally different liveries. Crane in the dark blue, Hildegard in the light blue, Syandra in the all red. Easily differentiable. I love you, Satellite Racing. Thank you.
Yep, no, they did make it nice and easy. We'll get the spec maps working on their cars for next round as well. So Berryman out in front of Barneveld, behind Munoz, so a bit behind your race leaders, net race leaders, Ariel and Coiter, on this strategy. We are about to complete the 20th lap of the race. In fact, Leo's just crossed the yard of bricks to signify that mark's complete. Is Veyron going to make a move on his teammate? Not just yet.
They're definitely cooking something at Coanda. They got to get cooking even faster, though, because Phil Kraus just sent a dive on Xander Reed in the background, takes P4 away from him. What did I say about experience versus youth? Xander Reed may have tons of racing experience. He may be young, but he's been doing motocross and karting and sim racing for basically his entire life. Phil Kraus, not the oldest guy in the world. He's in his 20s, but he's probably been sim racing probably for, I'd say, more than half of Xander Reed's life, so Phil's definitely trying to show him up a little bit, showing him what experience can do.
Hey, Phil's a top-level IndyCar driver across the platforms as well. Not just here on iRacing, but think back to Formula Sim Racing on rFactor 2 as well. Of course, VCO partnered up with Formula Sim Racing in the last handful of years, so great to see Phil going from strength to strength, and going to be a handful of drivers making a crack at that Pro Series. So, we have had 12 drivers not pit. Everyone else has made the trip down pit lane. And last lap, let's see if we can compare Eduardo Leo to Gustavo Ariel and get a bit of a sense as a bit of traffic plays its part as well. Veyron's going to finally make the switch around. It's a 2/10 margin per lap, but that's what Ariel's trying to chip into, while Leo may be trying to cut out a pit stop in this race.
Yeah, that's going to be the blend. Will it be the 2-stop that saves you maybe? Pit lane's about 52 seconds in terms of driving all the way through and taking your stop, but because you're rolling for some of that, it's probably about a 45 second time loss. So can you make up those extra 45 seconds on those fresher tires by doing a 3-stop?
Whoa.
Or is it better? But Gustavo Ariel brings it down pit lane. He's only been on those tires for about 6 laps. I don't know if this is a scheduled stop.
What's happened here? This is definitely not according to the script that Team Redline would have had written. The car looks okay.
Penalty. Car failed to maintain the pace car speed before the start of the race.
Oh, so this was one of those penalties that we haven't had a chance to talk about. And, well, I mean, at least it's good to see that Ariel's in as basically early as he can to serve this one. So, confirmation, this is indeed a drive-through penalty for Gustavo Ariel.
That is heartbreaking. He was leading overall in that second secondary strategy. A little while to come down, but Gustavo has to serve that drive-through. I mentioned pit lane's about a 45-second loss. Well, how about an extra 45-second loss, unfortunately, for Gustavo Ariel, and you see him now going a lap down as Veyron and Costantini get by him. That might be day done. He might need a safety car to save him once those leaders come back in.
Adam Crane as well has got a penalty. Not the only one, though. We can keep going with a bit of a report here on status from race control. A 16 as well. A penalty. So that's Jacob Oster. This is all, by the way, spelled out pretty cut or dry in the rule book. So I'll be honest in saying I don't really have much sympathy here for the drivers. These are rules that we put in place for IMSA Esports. It went great. And Christian Steele as well, another driver with a penalty. Kevin Burrell had a 10-second stop and hold. But of course his race has already come to a close. Rejoin your race leader then, who's going to cycle back around, exit lap 23, join lap 24, and with a 3.5-second advantage, independent driver Eduardo Leo leads at the racing capital of the world.
You gotta say, he's still been doing a pretty solid job of keeping those tires under him. 1:13.2 on the last lap. It's about a 1.5 seconds slower than the pace they were running on fresh tires at the start of the race, but if you compare that to some of the drivers behind him, Costantini running a little bit deeper into the 113s, Kraus a little bit deeper into the 113s, Reed and Crane and Michaels, they're in the 114s, so even though Leo is extending the stint for as long as possible, he was controlling the pace at the start of the race, was probably saving the tiniest little bit of fuel, but more importantly, saving those tires to make sure there's still a little bit of life left in them, and making sure the transition between those fresher tires and the drivers behind him, and him still running the same pace right now, isn't that different, but there's trouble in turn 12. That's the 303, that's an Eric Andre.
And that could be the first safety car of the day, unless he can bring it back down to pit lane. He's going to try and stay out of trouble. Now, he's pancaked the wall at this new section that was added, of course. No longer do you blast back around to the yard of bricks. Oh, this is a precarious place to be stopped. Race control will make their judgment as the rest of the drivers try and slip their way through in racing conditions. Pick up Jaden Munoz and Peter Berryman, 12th and 13th spots. And of course, the top 9 still yet to come down pit lane.
Berryman looking to the outside, but Munoz pulling a little bit of the Pruitt fade there, making sure he couldn't quite get there. Through the S's, single file. Jaden on defense. Berryman still looking for a way by. Turn 12 is going to be his next opportunity, but it's going to be tough to do here. Here comes Berryman in the draft, looking to the outside again, switching to the inside, sending it in there. Barely a nose to the inside, though, isn't going to get him the position just yet. Munoz is going to hang on, but Berryman looking very, very quick right now. Those tires are absolutely lit up. They're 3 laps fresher than Munoz's. He might not have been able to do it in that final sector, but into turn 1, he's on the push to pass. He's going to blow by Jaden Munoz in the front stretch.
Here we go. Both trying to do what they can. Henrik Andre, by the way, confirmation it was a technical issue for him.
Oh.
And going deep into the corner for Peter Berryman. Munoz going to try and now get the switch back, the up and under. It's great respect for racing. It's amazing to see, all as they try and cost each other time effectively on those that now make their way down pit lane. Your race leader's done 24 laps. Costantini, Veyron going to be following in behind.
And I said Berryman was going to blow by him on the front stretch. He did, and then he blew turn 1 himself and lost that spot. So the unfortunate trade-off of having that extra speed into turn 1. But this is going to be the blend. We're going to have to sit here for about 35 seconds or so as Eduardo Leo crawls to his pit stall. It was about a 40-second gap back to Sam Coitert when he came down. I don't think he's going to end up in the lead here, but he's going to have so much fresher tires than Sam Coitert, who's been on those tires for the last 10 laps. The chase is going to be on. Coitert is likely going to take the race lead here, but Eduardo Leo is instantly going to be back on offense and instantly going to be back chasing him down.
The possibility of cutting out a pit stop, though, what Leo's been thinking about. Coitert's going to blast past. No surprise there. Toth as well. Where does the 17 emerge, though, in relation to the oncoming up-to-speed traffic directly in front of the battle that we've been following? Berryman's got tires up to temperature. Veyron alongside of Pablo Espez, who's been out there for 13 laps and counting so far this run. Mix on strategies, 25 laps into this race.
Berryman and Leo on 2 very, very different strategies. I think Peter knows he's not really fighting Eduardo for this position. He may be on fresher tires, but I don't see him getting on the push to pass, and I don't see him really attempting a dive. He peeked a nose to the inside, let Eduardo know he was there. but nothing doing that time around. And now Eduardo can look forward and focus on David Toth, who's only 2 seconds ahead, Sam Coitert, who's only 5 seconds ahead.
The joys of live broadcasting. Our graphics will be down for the next couple of minutes, but we'll keep you up to date with everything that we can around of the track. This is Sam Coitert, still waiting to see where Phil Krause will emerge, who's now up on the jacks, and where's he going to drop? He is going to switch over to the primary compound of tyre, as one would expect. Coitert passed. Is he going to be closer to the likes of Veyron Costantini than we'd thought? Munoz is also having a bit of a defensive cover from Veyron. Doesn't get the chance. Munoz overcommits, and Veyron says thank you very much.
You saw Peter Berryman do that 2 laps ago, and he was like, I want to do that too. I'm going to outbrake myself into turn 1 as well, get myself a little bit of time. Yeah, same mistake, so easy to do. Those braking zones in turn 1 and turn 7 and turn 12, there are hard limits to where you can start or to where you can stop getting on the brakes when you're suddenly too late. But they are very, very wide. Some drivers brake a little bit earlier. You can lift off, lift and coast a little bit, save a little bit of fuel, brake very late and go for the dive. It's a wide range of being able to brake and stop the car, but eventually you do just get a little bit too late. Eventually physics gets into your consideration and says, no, you started braking too late. You're not making this corner anymore.
On board with Costantini into this final sector. Henrik Andre, by the way, is confirmed now is joining Diogo Pinto and Kevin Burrell as being a retiree. What's going to happen, though? We'll have to wait and see as they just continue to turn in the lap. So Eduardo Leo closes up to David Toth, fresh tires, and he stayed on the alternate compound tires. Very, very interesting.
Yeah, thinking about short-term gains potentially, but honestly, if you think about how well he did on those red tires, he didn't lose a ton of time. He wasn't that much slower than Coitert and Toth on those fresh other tires, on those fresh black tires. So I don't know. Maybe he's a fan of the Reds. I don't think he's going to be able to make the move on Toth, but he says, "Screw you! I'm going for it anyway." Sends the dive, blows by David Toth. Yeah, he is comfortable and he's getting aggressive right now. We've seen him on defense all day, and now suddenly on offense, Eduardo Leo's not holding up for anybody.
That was a very, very impressive move. Back over to Costantini, who's got fresh primaries, as opposed to Jaden Munoz, who is on relatively worn alternate tires, 11 laps and counting, back towards final sector of the lap. Are starting to finally see the separation. These drivers are 7 seconds behind your race leader. Sam Coitert going to be looking now in the rearview mirrors to see how closely, how quickly Eduardo Leo is going to catch. Back in the pack as well to find Michael Johnny on the hunt. Now looking to try and find a way past Marcos Nunez as Robert Malechka, longest of them all, finally down to the box.
And Robert Malechka serving that penalty for an infraction at the start of the race. Got out of line too early, so that's very unfortunate for him. Was looking very, very strong today, but Michael Johnny looking fiercely forward on the fiercely forward driver of Marcos Nunez. It's tough to do anything when you're in a battle with a driver on the same exact strategy. Both of these guys doing very similar things to try and get to the end of the race. Comes down to raw pace, comes down to overtaking prowess, and Johnny maybe a little bit too far back to go for a straightforward move, and yeah, he knows that would be too low percentage of a move to go for a dive at the end of Holman Boulevard. Stays in line. He's going to wait for a mistake from Nunez to try and go for that again.
And I like your choice of words, right? Low percentage move, because for the most part, we haven't seen too many of them. Yes, Start Chaos was present and to be expected, but since then, you know, Henrik Andre's incident aside, I don't think we've really seen too much of a concern and a cause to potentially worry about the caution being brought back out. And as we can bring you back the pictures, the graphics on your screen, don't forget you can head to timing.RaceSpot.tv to follow along with your team, your driver as well, as we head off into this next phase of the race. Jacob Oster invoicing lawnmower services to Doug Bowles tomorrow, I think.
Ring, ring. Get the phone out. Jacob, I don't know, he might need to do a little bit of the lawn mowing himself as he sends it into turn 1, just gets a little bit loose again. It's too much speed into the corner. Tires say absolutely not. You're not making that corner. And, you know, it's Jacob. He's an engineering student. He's been sending worms to space. He knows physics better than anybody. he was probably doing that equation in his head right now. He had a couple of F equals MAs going around in there, and he's like, oh God, I've got too much MA. I'm not going to be able to make it.
Let's see if we can catch what happened to Andre. Mentioned there was a technical issue, so he heads out through the right-hander. Oh, and it's a lazy kiss into the wall. Had a similar thing happen to him in qualifying. Hope that he can get that resolved for round 2. It's a couple of weeks away, fortunately, and after that, it's back to back to back until we round off the championship. So, 30 laps about to be complete as Pablo Espes saw Phil Kraus look to try and make a move. Half gave space in reaction, got a wiggle in return. Kraus is on the push to pass, trying to take advantage, running up to turn number 1.
Pablo and Philippe going at it. Phil to the inside on the push to pass. This should be pretty straightforward for him, but turn 1's never truly straightforward. Very late in the brakes for Kraus. Got a little bit of a wiggle on him, just like Jacob Oster did a couple of moments ago, but Kraus actually able to get it slowed down, actually able to keep all 4 wheels pointed straight. And now look for him to start looking forward. Jaden Munoz next on his list. Michele Costantini even. Kraus is probably looking for a top 5, I think, at the end of the day. Xander Reed and Pablo Espes now, they're forced to fight amongst themselves for P9.
I'm knocking on wood when I say this, but we haven't had a caution yet. We've had 4 retirements: Lorenzo, Birel, Pinto, and Andre. Could we go caution-free in this opening round of the season? Stark contrast to how the ISOWC opened up in 21 with a caution-filled and interrupted race in upstate New York at Watkins Glen, but here, racing capital of the world, it's been pretty good so far. Eduardo Leo, though, check back in with number 17, hunting down the race leader, although somewhat struggling to be able to close the advantage in the last couple of laps.
Yeah, the gap has stagnated. You would think it would be a far greater advantage for Leo, but it really isn't. You see, last lap, made a couple of thousandths up. Lap before, lost a couple of thousandths. It's basically dead even between these two guys. The undercut not really doing the job that Leo was hoping for. So I don't know. Were the Reds the right choice for him? Is he going to be able to make up all that time in the second, or the third stint rather, where he put on those black tires and start chasing him down? Right now he's on the back foot, but still a lot of racing to go. We're not even to halfway yet. That's still 5 laps away.
Long, long way to go indeed in this race. About 52 minutes, though, of action, so stick with us here. Should be exciting all the way to the very end, and what is a very busy day in motorsports, of course, with the Crown Strike 24 Hours of Spa taking place in the real world. And we have a couple of drivers who are racing out there that will be joining us for round 2. Not going to talk too much more about that just yet, but stay tuned on social media. Follow VCO Esports for more, and of course stay subscribed to us on Twitch for all the great things that are coming over the rest of this year. We've got one more VCO Grand Slam, the iRacing Petit Le Mans. That is a ways away, to be fair, but plenty more before we get into the month of October. Back towards the yard of bricks. Let's check back in with Toth, Berryman, Veyron. 3rd, 4th, and 5th position. And left side of the screen, Joey, keep an eye on the tires that they're all on at this phase of the race.
It's still a little bit of a blend, but you're already seeing some of those drivers who elected to go for the alternates in their second stint already ditching them. Alex Van de Sant down pit lane. He's only been out on track for a couple of laps now. Alternates are very, very difficult to stretch out. I think Eduardo Leo is basically the only driver in the field who was able to make them competitive for a long period of time, and he's now taken absolute chunks out of Sam Coitert's lead. I don't know what happened in turn 7, if there was a mistake from Coitert or what, but he lost about 9/10 in the space of one corner, and suddenly Eduardo Leo's within a second.
Again, look at that weather, 51 degrees Celsius. That wind's gusting around as well. Not quite sure which direction, but that was something that drivers mentioned could play an impact depending on which side of the facility it was blowing from. We exit our way from the south portion of the track, though, and rise our way towards the line once more. There's Sam Carasala, some lap traffic for your leaders to potentially contend with. Jacob Oster as well, a couple of laps down. He's been keeping out of trouble and letting your leaders sequence on through. There are your 2 leaders up front, though. Leo on the left, Coitert on the right, and as calm as you'd like for Sam Coitert, I've got to say.
Yeah, surprisingly calm, because that last lap, 1:33.9 for Coitert. Last lap, 1:12.9 for Eduardo Leo. A full second faster, and we're not entirely sure why. I don't know if there was a mistake right here for Coitert, if he outbraked himself or what, or if Eduardo Leo just decided to start pushing finally and make up some of that ground, but Yeah, the gap's absolutely been decimated. Leo's now within draft range. If he gets that little bit closer, he'll be able to latch onto the back of Coitert, probably stick with him, save a little bit of tire, save a little bit of fuel. It's all suddenly turned around. It looked hopeless for Leo on this stint. It looked like he was just going to have to keep himself within about 2 seconds and focus on the next time around. But no, he has brought himself back, and he's truly back in the conversation.
And Peter Berryman, I was wondering what he was going to do on strategy. Read my mind, decided let's give Arjuna a little bit of fun. He's into pit lane on his alternate tires, probably switching over to the primaries. He'll have Mark Tranter guiding him behind the scenes at the Apex Racing Team strategy headquarters. After qualifying a little bit disappointingly, they fought their way up well. You've got the pit wall on the right-hand side now. Find your box. He'll have a decent starting spot, courtesy of where he qualified. And into the marks. Berryman rolls for the second time today. You can also see Jaden Munoz, the plus 26. Oscar Bixrud is plus 20. There's been some drivers who have very much taken advantage of all the chaos so far, Joey, and taken some very good positions.
One thing I love about the virtual Indianapolis Motor Speedway, as much as I love the real Indianapolis Motor Speedway, no matter what race it is, no matter if it's the iRacing Indy 500 or if it's a race on the road course, you see those grandstands, every single one of them is sold. Even the ones in like turn 4 where you can't even see the road course, they're still somehow totally booked. We got 350,000 virtual people watching this thing.
And this is one of those tracks. It is just special when you're there, especially when you're there as one of the 350-odd thousand people. It's
like buying one of those Taylor Swift tickets that's behind the stage. There's people who are, you can't even see the track at all. You can just see the golf course, but they were like, we want to see Sam Coitert, we want to see Eduardo Leo. We're booking these virtual tickets.
Can you imagine if we could frenzy up a storm like Taylor Swift did for some virtual IndyCar racing?
We are right now. This is our Eras Tour right now.
Not the Eras Tour, the Eras Tour. We're not making the you saw that joke, right?
Of course.
Yes. To be fair, I know what Dave was trying to say. I don't think Dave meant it in any way that was negative. It's just, people will take things and spin it. Dave Grohl.
I bet Dave Grohl's watching right now.
Yeah, oh, I'm sure. The god of rock
Doug
and roll.
Bowles is watching. Dave Grohl's is watching. They're all here.
Taylor Swift is watching.
I mean, I'm sure. Travis, he's here.
Is that Travis is not Jason? That's the rock. Yeah, okay. You see, I watch so much football.
There you go.
What positions do those guys even play? Because I don't even know those things, those words. Here comes Coitert to pit lane to interrupt our football and Taylor Swift talk.
Batter. That's what I'll go for.
Sam Coitert.
He's a cricket player, actually. Sam Coitert, big lockup before the yellow cone there. Doesn't really matter. Those tires are getting thrown in the bin anyway. Huge lockup behind as well from I believe that's the lapped Robert Malechka. Jaden Munoz coming down as well. But yet again, Sam Coitert going on the undercut, hoping to stay out of traffic. It's going to be a little bit tougher right now as we've gone so far without a caution. The field has come pretty spread out in the first 37 laps of this race. So I'm sure him and the team Redline strategists, they know not to leave him out there in traffic, but there's always the risk. There's always the possibility that you do end up in a little bit of an unfortunate place and you lose even more time getting stuck behind somebody who's quite a bit off the pace.
Guess where we are, Joey?
Indianapolis?
Good answer. No, we are about halfway through this race, though.
Yeah, that's true.
I prefer your answer, though. Halfway through this race means we're halfway away from leaving the racing capital of the world. And so as Sam Coitert off and away, where's Berryman? That's the question. Not in sight. It's just exiting turn 1 now, and Coitert still has the advantage, both on the primary compound tire, as you'd expect.
Easy stuff there. Those Redline strategists know what they're doing. They know how to look at a track map, and they know how to find clean track. But things are getting dicey up front as Berryman gets the tires up to temperature. Leo and Toth, they're only separated by 0.2 right now. Suddenly, we were talking so much about the battle between Leo and Coitert for the lead. The battle now is going to be between Leo and Toth for what'll be the lead right now, what might be second, if Sam Coitert can make this undercut work. This is exactly what he wants to see. These two guys on 2 different sets of tires fighting it out for the lead and slowing each other down.
Especially given that Leo's probably feeling the pain right now from his tires, right? Given that he's gone so deep into this run on the second set of alternates as opposed to the entirety of the field now being on the primaries with the exception of him. It got a lot darker, though, has the track. A bit of cloud cover Could that see the track temperature drop and help Leo out just a bit with the balance of the car? Watch his hands as well. He's not gripping the wheel with a death vice grip. No, it's loose hands, and loose hands are fast hands. One with the car.
They are in two very similar setups. I don't think it's the same exact wheel between these two guys, but looks very similar. They both got similar headsets as well, even similar seats. So they're probably going to be feeling pretty. And same glasses as well. These guys are almost exactly the same guy, just in two different countries. And now Toth in the draft. He's not on the push to pass, but he's still blowing by Leo in the draft, and Eduardo knows he's not even going to be able to fight that. Those tires are starting to fall off a little bit. And David Toth, for the first time, gets to lead a couple of laps and gets clean air on the nose of that Drago number 8.
And Hungary goes wild. So does the entirety of Drago Racing. New livery for them, not getting to see Jose Soria, unfortunately, but we know he'll be back and stronger than ever for round 2. There's the track temperature, which has dropped, as mentioned, with that little bit of cloud cover that's now come and interrupted the proceedings. So, as new race leader David Toth slides his way down the back straightaway into the S's. Let's go back over to those that have just departed pit lane once more, because Sam Coiter is behind Ryan Barnabel's going to have to start to work past some traffic now. Quote-unquote traffic. Cars that have yet to come back down pit lane.
Well, that is going to be tough, because Ryan Barneveld, despite the fact that he is on a different strategy, despite the fact that he is a little bit slower, he's still on the same lap, and he's not that much slower. He was about half a second slower on that last lap than Coiter was, so he's not going to defend. He knows they're on two different strategies, but he's still going to be a little bit of a nuisance. He's going to be spitting dirty air out of the rear end of that car, and especially through the S's here, through the first sector where it's so difficult to make a move, he could be very inconvenient for Sam Coiter. The two Dutch drivers finding each other on track. I'm sure they're both happy to see each other. I'm sure they're buddies. I'm sure if they saw each other in Rotterdam, they would like each other. But right now in Indianapolis, they don't want to see another Dutch guy.
Word from Race Control is they have officially now gotten through all the decisions, and so as Barneveld leaves for pit lane, makes our life a little bit boring, joins Oscar Bixrud down in the box. I think officially Race Control can put their feet up for just a little bit and relax just until Race Control gets called back into action by the flurry of activity that we're sure to see towards the end of this race. Track map in the bottom right corner of your screen will illustrate just how much separation we have now. Remember, at one point there were 20 cars split by just under 10 seconds. Now, 20 cars split by around 60 seconds.
I did see your Race Control friend Max Pappas in Monterey. I didn't get to say hi, though, because we were in the hotel, and I was trying to catch an elevator, and he was in there, and I ran to the elevator, and the elevator door closed, and he didn't reopen.
Oh, unfortunate.
There's my Max Pappas anecdote for today.
To be fair, if I was in an elevator with you, I'd also want to not be in the elevator with you.
That's true.
David Toth down to pit lane.
The smell gets really bad.
Oh, I was more thinking about your puns, but that
too.
too. David Toth in pit lane, Marcos Nunez as well. And so, primary compound tires for them right now. Surely, Joey, that's what they stick with.
You never know. There's been some funniness. There's been a wide range of alternate strategies today. So, I'll take my prediction when it happens. Drago Racing number 8 lifted up on the jacks by the invisible virtual pit crew. He was in the blacks, and he still is on the blacks. So no change for Toth, and probably no change for Nunez either. It's been doing him well so far, so keep sticking it out.
Love this view from up top on the roof of the pagoda. You can see Jaden Munoz on the left-hand side, just heading off to turn 1. David Toth is going to emerge just in front of the 124. Give it about a 4-second advantage as the tires get fired up to temperature. And Jaden Munoz, who's up 19 spots where he sits right now, going to try and close up a little bit more. Let's check in with a couple of drivers who are joining us on relatively short notice tonight, now with your net race leader closing up to them. Brandon Roseborough, the Hydro Race Geodesic Racing driver here as a reserve. Sam Michaels from Movano Corsa represents CrowdStrike Racing in the sim world as well, as an invited driver is in 9th position. Race leader directly behind.
And I love to see that Hydro Race Geodesic livery. No matter what vehicle it's on, they've got teams racing in LMP3 machinery, in high-level prototype GTP machinery, in TCR, in IndyCar, in GT3. Every car you could possibly imagine has that Hydro Race Geodesic livery on it, and even, seemingly, the shirt on Brandon Roseborough's back. It's also Hydra Race Geodesic colors. That's
Yeah.
a company man right there.
Yeah, but you got to send some to us if you want us to talk
Yes,
more
please.
about the shirts. Sam Michaels, I love that camera angle as well. You see the rig itself, like how it wraps around him, the hands, how much he's working, him actually talking, the reaction. I mean, in terms of camera angles, that's about as good as it gets.
And you see a lot of these drivers, they've been very smooth. They've been very relaxed. They're not gripping the wheel so much. Sam Michaels, different style. He's going a little bit Ryan Newman over there, gripping the wheel, almost hunching over the wheel a little bit as he's sitting a little bit closer to the monitor and handling this vehicle, and it's doing him well. It's a different style from some of the other guys, but you got your own style. That's how you learn. That's how you go fast. And in that Movano number 21, he's doing a good job of holding race leader, potentially, Sam Coitert back at least a little bit in the final sector.
Yeah, I ran into Sam Michaels actually in the IMSA paddock at the Daytona 24. Had a quick chat with him, and I believe he was there with the other Michaels as well, who's my memory is just like a goldfish today because of everything that's been going on, so I regret to say I'm forgetting. But Sam Michaels going to see Sam Coitert slip on through. Brandon Roseborough will be next in line. David Toth, more importantly, though, has just passed Peter Berryman. 6 laps difference on times between them. A little bit different strategy, Joey. And as Xavi Ross has wrecked his car, are we in for a caution? That's going nowhere.
That absolutely has to be. Yep, right outside the chicane, yellow flag flies, and the first caution of the day just past halfway for a destroyed Xavi Ross number 04.
Wow. Well, he's still trying to spin up the rear tires, but I regret to inform you, son, it's going nowhere anytime fast. There's a look at the driver, unfortunately. Heartbreaking. And, well, a race that had been caution-free suddenly flipped on its head. Let's take a look, Joey, at what happened. And the curbs, well, the curbs can bite.
Yep, especially when those tires are worn. In my research before today, I learned there's also a high-level Spanish mathematician named Xavi Ross, but you don't need that to solve this equation right here. Worn tires, high load, and clipping the grass on the inside of the curb at that is what really undid Xavi there. You can't clip the grass at high speeds like that. 2 tires in the asphalt, 2 tires in the grass, 2 different coefficients of friction, gets those inside tires slipping up a little bit more and rotates the car around to the point where you're not going to be saving that. There's a lot of grass on the other side there. There is the golf course, but you got to put a wall somewhere. You got to stop the track eventually. And poor old Xavi found the end of the track very, very quickly there with no time to get that stopped.
And race control right on cue, calling it out just in the nick of time. So Eduardo Leo, has he just been saved in some ways because his tires had very much started to fall off a cliff? The problem is, though, from this point to the end, we've got 32 to go, so you can't make it from here unless we get more cautions or some crazy magic happens in your fuel tank. You are going to need to stop again. For a driver like David Toth, I think that's okay. The 2 stoppers versus the 3 stoppers, there's going to be a lot of split calls as to whether this was a good thing or not.
Yeah, I don't know what you do at this point. If you just stick it out and pretend this caution isn't even happening and just stay out, go for the green flag, treat the race like it was normal. I can't imagine it's going to be an especially long cycle here. We will have to let everybody come down pit lane and order the field, but if we get going again with 29, 28 laps left to go, can you just ignore that this caution happened? I'm not sure, but we'll get an answer here in just a couple of moments. Does our race leader come in? Phil Kraus probably talking to his team right now, probably asking these same questions. What the heck do I do? Leo stays out.
For a second, I thought he was going to take an unsafe pit entry there and cut across the grass, but no. I think you are forced to stay out by the timing of this caution. Someone further back, though, may elect for a bit more of a gamble, and indeed, I see at least one that's peeled off. Couldn't quite make out who it was. Might be Sam Michaels, who has come down pit lane. In fact, a couple more people down pit lane. It's busy. Taylor, I see, and one of the I5G entries. Lots of takers.
Sayandra's in there. Lots of drivers. It's an alternate strategy for all these guys. It's not what the majority of the field wanted to do, but a lot of these drivers are drivers who are on the back foot, who weren't really in contention for a top 10 or even a sniff of the win, but they're thinking, you know what, if we go off strategy, we try something different, maybe we will have a day that ends in the top 10. So Pablo Espez has fallen down a little bit. He's looking forward. Sam Michaels, Cy Andra, Matt Taylor, Josh Thompson, Christian Steele, all guys on the back foot a little bit. Have nothing to lose. Might as well go alternate. Might as well hope for some cautions and hope for some drama and hope that it cycles out in your way.
And well, this is what the caution was meant to bring. And it is a lot more simple than what we had in the 2022 IMSA Esports Global Championship, where, let's be honest, our caution at Laguna Seca has, I think, scarred many a driver for life, including myself for the thesis, the dissertation that I had to write about the events that transpired and what could be done to prevent it in the future. This is a lot more simple. They just follow what iRacing effectively tells them to do. Single file restart as well. There's no car between the leader and the safety car, so there's going to be no wave arounds. However, there is a car, a lapped car, in the midst of all of this action, and so that's going to mean that there are going to be some lapped cars to contend with when we go racing at this restart, Joey.
Can we pause right here, crop out the safety car, and just pretend that's what we were seeing on like the restart? Because they were like 3 and 4 wide down Holman Boulevard here. I hope we see that in the restart, but I think we should save that as a screenshot. Be like, look how crazy it was.
30 to go at the line with the lights off. A couple of drivers did get black flags from coming down on towards pit lane. Sam Michaels, Matt Taylor, Josh Thompson, and Jacob Oster amongst them. Everyone else, though, seems to have been okay. Well, here we go. What are you expecting on this restart? Because, Joey, I'm expecting fireworks.
There's definitely going to be some fireworks. They say cautions breed cautions. That tends to be more of the case when it's a double file restart, but you never know. There's the top 8 on a different strategy from basically everybody behind. The strategy's sort of evened out here, so track position is going to be very important. Making those overtakes is going to matter. Look at P9. Look at Sam Coitert in that red line number 28. He has to start moving early, so look for him.
Right. Eduardo Leo in control, but on alternate tires that may have been well past their sell-by date even before the caution flew. We've got lapped cars interspersed as well, and so now all in control of Eduardo Leo. Up towards the starting zone, green flag ready to drop, and with 30 laps to the end of the opening round of the 2024 VCO IndyCar Challenge, powered by Open Wheels. Remember, there's lapped cars in the mix as well. Rev through the gears, rumble the engines, and maybe some moves to be made further behind. Xander Reed, Phil Krause, Michael Johnny in the thick of the action. Alexander Van der Sand's on the push to pass, trying to make his way forward. As Ryan Barneveld in that big red BS competition car tries to stay out of trouble. Here comes Phil Krause to try and hold on to his spot.
And Krause in the middle of lap traffic. Sam Carasala is directly ahead as well, who's a lap down. You saw Elliot Veyron, by the way, on push to pass on the restart. Unlike in the real world, you can do that in iRacing. That's totally legal, and he needed that. It was a terrible restart. Leo jumped it and was able to run away. Didn't jump the start, but jumped him. And yeah, great restart from Eduardo Leo. Side by side between Roseboro and Toth. Coitert's already gotten by Roseboro. Toth needs to do the same very, very quickly not to lose him. He's having a tougher time of doing so. And around the outside in turn 9, he's in danger of losing another spot to Jaden Munoz as well.
Oh, they could be 3 wide onto the brakes here. If they fan up onto the banking, answer is no. Toth backs out. Munoz almost runs into Roseboro. You saw a lean, a little bit of a rush of contact there. And as cars up front now try and take advantage, one driver down to pit lane, I think because of the black flag from the caution cycle as mentioned. Here we go, more usage of the button. Towers lit up in orange as everyone uses 60 to 70 horsepower. 2 and 3 wide, they pull on out and into turn 1. Berryman looks to the inside. Not going to be able to get it done on Roseboro just yet. He's got more grip though. He's going to give it a good go around the outside.
And Toth, importantly, did get by Roseboro. He's got to focus forward now and make sure Sam Coitert doesn't get too far away, because that is the driver he's going to be battling for this race win at the end of it all. I think there's going to be one more stop for everybody in the field, as here's your race leader, Eduardo Leo, not totally in control right now. Even with the bad restart from Veyron, he was able to keep within touching distance in turn 1. And suddenly Elliot Veyron could potentially be an underdog. If he can stick with Leo, if he can improve on that Coanda long-term pace, on that long run pace rather, they might still be in contention to Coanda. It might not be over.
Josh Chin, one of the few incidents that we've had on this restart. It's been feisty. It's been clean for the most part. He was alongside Hilgard in that very bright blue, very easy to pick out. Satellite racing entry, and almost goes up onto two wheels, but bounces back onto terra firma, albeit with maybe a little bit of a stiff landing at the end, back up front. So, from this point, fuel savings out the window, push to pass usage is going to be maximized, and tires, well, use them and abuse them. We've talked about that already. Veyron, Leo, 1 and 2, Costantini and Kraus slightly further behind as they skip through the chicane.
Exactly. One more stop for everybody else in this field, at least so we think. So if you're Sam Coitert right now, you need to be making moves. This is your track position at the end of the race. You need to make sure that tire advantage you have right now is used to its full effect. So he's got to get by Michael Janney. He's got to get by Xander Reed. He's got to get by Phil Kraus to try and even this out somehow, or else it's going to end up being an Eduardo Leo versus Elliot Veyron versus Michele Constantini race for this win.
Costantini is in danger of dropping back, though, so by no means is he guaranteed to be part of the mix. A little bit further back, though. Munoz, Toth, Chin, Berryman still outside of the top 10 for a couple of those drivers. Sam Coitert, the former race leader, now tries to find himself closing back up as move for the lead. Leo's tires really can't do much more. And so Coanda, Veyron, the number 9, 27 laps to go, slide in front, and with a tire advantage and a car between him and the rest of the competition.
Yeah, for as good as Eduardo Leo has been on saving those red tires, for as excellent as that long first stint was, that's still not the advantage to have those red tires on right now. Veyron might be worse in terms of tire saving. That Coanda setup across the entire team, and maybe slightly worse keeping the tires under it, but when you're on those harder tires anyway, it evens out, and Elliot Veyron is going to be feeling very, very comfortable in the lead of this race now. David Toth not feeling comfortable at all. He's stagnated. He's stuck behind Jaden Munoz. He's stuck behind Adam Crane in traffic. I don't know, the win for those drivers on that other strategy, for him and for Coitert and for Berryman, it may be out of the question unless we get another safety car that evens things out even more.
Remember how much Redline were charging at the start, both Coitert and Ariel? Well, it's now in the longer run, Coanda that seemingly have just come on that slight more strong. Let's see if they're going to see a bit of a change between them in the pit stop cycle, as that's Brandon Roseborough who's finally pitted down onto the box. So he's let a whole bevy of cars filter on through. Only one or two reports from that restart for race control to work their way through. So 26 laps to go. This is effectively a fuel window. So anyone pits from now, they're good to the end. Roseborough should be good.
He's going to be able to pull off a pretty big undercut, but those tires are going to be destructamundo at the end of the race. So he's definitely hoping for a caution himself. He's definitely hoping that a little bit of luck can get him a top 10 at the end of it all. Jaden Munoz at the top of your screen clears Adam Crane, gets rid of a little bit of that traffic, but there is not a lot of clean track right now. Sam Coitert is seeing that firsthand. Sam Carasala and Christian Hildgaard fighting for position for P20, actually. So they're in their own little situation here, and Coitert's going to be pretty mad because he's trying to get forward. He knows he needs to look forward. He knows he needs to catch Michael Janney and start making passes on track, but he's stuck in the dirty air of these two guys and has been seemingly unable to get by either of them for the last couple laps.
Not just yet, as we look on board with Christian Hildgaard. Again, more drivers starting to make usage of that push to pass, including Sam Coitert. You can hear the engine pull alongside and make the move as the red line number 28 holds on. It's a track position over the charging David Toth and Jaden Munoz behind. And these are drivers, of course, let's not forget, fighting for points, fighting for positions on their own little battles. It's just right now one lap down, and one lap down included for the likes of Gustavo Ariel, Ryan Barneveld, big names that find themselves down and maybe slightly further out of contention from where they would have expected to be. Let's recheck in with your race leaders. Jump on board, though, with Phil Kraus as Eduardo Leo holds on just to Elliot Veyron, Costantini, and the private label team hype number 19, closing up to second in what is now a four-way fight for 3 podium spots.
I didn't really realize until we saw Christian Hildgaard's face there, and I got no statistics on this, but I feel like we've got a high percentage of orange-haired boys in sim racing. It's not statistically, it's statistically anomalous, but Phil Kraus is going to take over the race lead here because Veyron, Leo, and Costantini all down pit lane simultaneously. Xander Reed and Michael Janney as well. All those guys, all those Coanda guys on that other strategy, they're going to the end of the race, but that was a big moment for your race leader, Elliot Veyron. It's not going to be an unsafe entry because it was to the outside of pit lane. That might be a little bit of worry there, the big lockup, if he was able to get it slowed down.
If you ever needed a question as to how much these drivers are pushing, well, don't question. There's the proof in the pudding for you. So Kraus stays out. Coitert on the button. He's trying to close back up. And remember, Coitert is 5 seconds behind, has got a car between him and Phil Kraus. Even though both have got to pit, they will have slightly different times down on pit lane. It's probably still Kraus that holds the advantage as it sits right now. Check back in, though, with the race soften away from pit lane as Veyron, Leo, Costantini, and then Xander Reed and Michael Janney release themselves from the limiter.
So not much in terms of position change, but a lot of change in terms of gap on track. Veyron and Leo were separated by literally nothing when they both came down pit lane, but Leo spent an extra second on pit lane, just a little bit slower coming out of the box, and you can see that gap on track now. It's much, much bigger, and Costantini, he might not have the long run pace, but he might have the short run pace, and being this close to Leo, if he can get him the push to pass into turn one, he might have a chance to take second away and maybe think about an underdog run. He's got to pounce very, very early, though, while he's got Leo close to him.
Leo as well in that all-black entry. I mentioned racing as a privateer. Altus, some of their drivers taking a slight step back, and so we'll see Oscar Mangan back in action for round two. Unfortunately, missing in action today, but Marcos Nunes, former Altus driver, is linked up with Fiercely Forward. Still believe there's a bit of a partnership between him, Javi Ross, and Eduardo as well, just to try and collaborate. Of course, when you have 4 Coanda drivers, there's I think 3 or 4 Redline as well. Apex of Peter Berryman in contention. Luke McEwen unfortunately withdrew from the series, so plenty of these top-level teams with drivers that you'd expect to be up towards the front and fighting. We jump on board through the traffic with David Toth. Jaden Munoz has just got through on Sam Carasala. Phil Kraus has just come down towards pit lane. Where exactly do you go in this situation?
I have no idea. I don't know where you go. Maybe you just lay over, you keel over, and you give up, but no, that's not what these guys are doing. Phil Kraus down pit lane. Not much longer in terms of a stint than the other drivers on this same strategy. He only went 1 lap further than Veyron and Leo, but does that mean he saved a couple of extra tenths of fuel? Does that mean he's going to be that little bit faster for a lap? He's certainly hoping so, and he was pretty close to all 3 of those guys on the previous stint. I don't know if he's going to be in the conversation for jumping them all and taking the overall race lead, but it might be close. Veyron coming out of the final corner, Kraus dropping off the jacks now. I think Veyron's still going to take the race lead, but it's actually going to be closer than we thought.
And no surprise, we're talking primary tires for these contenders all the way to the very end. Kraus finally is going to go off and away as Veyron exits out of turn 1. And it is confirmed. Kraus behind the Coanda stronghold. He's dropped behind Eduardo Leo and Michele Costantini as well, but talking fine margins, just about a second in the draft. He's closer to them than he is to Xander Reed and Michael Janney, so cycles out exactly where he wants. He's got Jason Brophy helping him on the pit wall, who of course works with Matt Busa in the eNASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series as well. Here's Jaden Munoz though, 1.6 off your race leader as they streak across the yard of bricks. 21 laps to go.
It's going to be a chase for these guys. They're going to be able to go pretty far on this stint, but they're going to have to make a pit stop. Their last stops were 18 laps ago. I don't believe you can go 39 laps, even with a caution. Marcos Nunez, in the meantime, though, I don't think there's any strategy consideration for these two guys. This is just for on-track position. This is just battling for the sake of it, for taking track position. And Nunez does get by Espes, but both of these guys on lap 10 of their respective stints. So another stop probably coming for them unless they can pull off an absolute fuel miracle. Even if they do, they're probably getting passed by Veyron and Leo, who are only about 20 seconds behind.
And in the case of this battle, it's different compounds, right? One on the alternates, one on the primaries, but I think at this point in the race, if you haven't already got off the alternates, I'm not quite sure exactly what you're thinking, because look at that track temperature. It's only actually gotten warmer, so really spend as little time on those tires as possible. The primaries just give you the lasting, enduring grip to go that much longer. 20 laps to go for your leader, though, as Sam Coiter just continues to run at the front. Pablo Espez has decided it's time to get the primaries on to the end of this race. Where is Eduardo Leo in comparison to Elliot Veyron, though? Is he going to be able to close? Because otherwise, Veyron's shown he's capable of holding up the gap and holding on to his lead.
And this is why you can never write anybody out, basically, until the final stint. Elliot Veyron, think about the first stint of this race when Eduardo Leo was leading from pole. Coanda, the entire team, looked like they were falling off, looked like they didn't have the short run speed. I think it was Veyron and Costantini and Reed and Johnny all together on track, about 5 seconds behind the lead and losing time. But then suddenly, second stint comes around. Veyron closes that gap up a little bit. Toth is fighting with Leo as well, slows him down even more. Caution comes out, evens the strategies out, screws Sam Coiter and Munoz a little bit, and Toth, and forces them down in an alternate strategy. And suddenly, with a jump in pit lane, with a move on track, Elliot Veyron is in total control of this race. All of that happened over the course of about 40 minutes, and suddenly a race that looked very, very likely for one driver, and looked like one driver had no chance, it's in the opposite direction now. That's how quickly things can flip.
Out of pit lane for Alexander Van der Sant, and spat straight into a fight with his teammate Joshua Chin in the private label team hype with Powerslide Motorsports entry. You can see behind them Brandon Roseborough and Pablo Espez. Two more drivers deposited into fight on the button for the Wave Italy number 55 as it slips up the inside of the black and gold machine and makes its move. So, as we just wait for the call from Coiter to come in, he's no more than 5 laps away at best. How deep into this race does he dare go? Elliot Veyron is starting to come under a bit more pressure from those behind. You can see the 4 drivers running at the front of the net race lead, already having pitted for the final time today.
Coiter is still losing time to Veyron right now. He's about 0.4 a lap slower, so that's going to be even more time he'd have to make up after coming down pit lane. Right now, if he was to pit, it would be about a 10-second gap to Veyron, so I don't know if there's anything more to lose by staying out for much longer. If you continue to stay out here, maybe hope that a safety car comes out, that evens out everything, or you just keep going here, stretch it out, fight for probably 5th, 6th, or 7th or something if it goes green. So he's hoping for a little bit of luck, and I think he's going to stay out for a while longer, basically until the fuel runs out of that car, because he's got nothing to lose. He's got nothing to gain from coming in early and evening out the stints.
The problem is, if a caution comes now, he is in the danger zone, to quote Townsend Bell. Like, there's no ifs or buts about it. These drivers have made their final pit stop. Those who are yet to do so, if we did get a second caution today, would find themselves dropping to the tail end of the pack. Never mind that, though. Sam Coiter, Jaden Munoz, and David Toth still with some traffic. Christian Hillgard in the mix as well. Yet to make their trip down pit lane. Cantelli Peter Berryman is just leaving right now. He's going to be around 5 seconds off the back of the net race leading pack.
And this will be an important number to see. I think Berryman, when he pitted, was about 5 seconds or so behind Coiter. 5 to 7 seconds, something like that. So see him coming out of pit lane into turn 2. How far is he behind Eduardo Leo? He's about 11 seconds behind him. So you'd maybe think with a Coiter pit stop, maybe a little bit shorter in a couple of laps, he'll probably be about 5 seconds behind Veyron and Leo at the end of that pit stop. That's a lot of time to make up. He will be on much fresher tires, but it's going to be the ultimate chase once that Coiter pit stop finally comes around, and he's not going to have much time to do it.
Could he be trying to go long enough that he thinks it's worth the gamble to go on to alternates? I'm just putting it out there into the universe. I'm not saying I actually believe he's going to do that, but
I think yes might be the answer.
It's a possibility.
When you got nothing to lose.
Yeah, here's what happened, by the way, to see Kraus get past Costantini down the back straightaway.
Big move. Pretty straightforward into turn 7. A little bit of elbows out on the exit, but straightforward, clean, and an excellent Phil Kraus move for what'll likely be P3 right now. And he's going to try and run away from Costantini. He's not going to be able to do it if he throws it off the road in turn 1. He does get it rounded up, and Costantini's not going to be able to fight that back for now. But yeah, Kraus has been so fast today. He's been so consistent. He's had long run speed. He's had short run speed. I don't know if it's going to be race winning speed. He's got to hold off Costantini for third, first and foremost, but second, maybe even possible.
There was a taker to pit lane. That was Ryan Barneveld. It's neither or none of the top three. Jaden Munoz now on the push to pass as he closes up to the back of Sam Coitert. So, as Redline, Williams and Drago stay out there and try and run a bit longer, 16 laps to go for them. Munoz slightly deep into the braking zone. Hope that doesn't cost him a little bit too much time. Leo's close to Veyron. Kraus is close to Leo. Costantini's on the back of Kraus as well. There's action up and down through all of these leading contenders. Flip a coin, and that's probably who's going to win this race. Do you have any idea right now, Joey? Are you going to make a wild prediction going off of what you said at the start of this race?
Elliot Veyron is absolutely the favorite. If we had percentages right now, I would say he has a 90% chance of winning this race. But it depends on if Jaden Munoz is able to make this move. Can he pull a gap to Sam Coitert before bringing it down pit lane? Both of these guys have been faster than Elliot Veyron in the last couple of laps. Veyron's in the 113s. Jaden Munoz is in the 112.8s. That doesn't help him much. It's still going to be about a 5 to 10 second gap after that pit stop, but that pit stop's coming right now. No more theoretical numbers, no more guessing. We are going to see a gap, and there's going to be a chase with Elliot Veyron, Eduardo Leo, Phil Kraus, and Michele Costantini probably being the top four, but Coitert and Munoz are going to be on 10-lap fresher tires to try and make up that gap over the final 15 laps.
It's what we've been waiting for. A final cycle of green flag pit stops. Yes, we've had our one caution that interrupted and threw the strategies into the bin for plenty. How did the teams, how did their engineers respond? How did they coach their drivers through the situation? David Toth does stay out, yes, but as already Veyron exits out of the final corner, just seeing Coitert enter into his box. Munoz started at the very back of the field. He's finished up his pit stop already, and he's making his way down the lane. Veyron is going to have the advantage. It is going to be alternate tires for Jaden Munoz. It is not for Sam Coitert, who has a penalty for speeding in pit lane.
It all comes undone for Sam Coitert. I think he knew it was going to be tough to be in contention for the win, but it's even worse. Pit lane penalty. Darn, that's Sam Coitert done. He's going to be ruined the fact that caution came out, and he's going to be ruined that mistake. A very promising day is going to drop him probably outside of the top 20. But now you can see that gap. Elliot Veyron back to Jaden Munoz. It's about 9 seconds. Unfortunately, there's also about 9 drivers between him and the race lead. So he's going to be making moves, sends it to the inside of Michael Johnny instantly, makes the move on the grass, still gets it slowed down. Same thing all the same. He's got 14 laps to make up 9 seconds and make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 overtakes. He's got fresher tires. I wish him good luck.
Can he hold on to the tires? I think that's what we're wondering about. A couple of people on the RaceSpotTV chat that I've just half been keeping an eye on. I'll be honest in saying we'll pay more attention to chat when we have with Hugo Luis behind the wheels of the production next time out. But Phil Kraus saying the best place for victory. Has to make some moves, though, and Leo's closing up in the tire tracks to Veyron. David Toth, he's on to the 21st lap of his run. If Jaden Munoz thinks it was worth going on to Reds, David Toth is probably thinking the same as well. He would be 8 seconds or so off the back of the race leaders. Jaden Munoz trying to take advantage of the extra grip that he's got.
And he knows he can't afford to wait to make these moves. He needs to go for them in unorthodox places. He was thinking about a move in turn 3. He was thinking about a move in the chicane on Xander Reed. Now finally he's going to get the chance down Holman Boulevard, around the outside to turn 7. Reed on much, much older tires. He knows he wasn't going to be able to fight it. Munoz is up to 7th. Berryman's next on his list. Should be pretty straightforward, but then it gets tougher. He's got 5 seconds to make up on track before he catches Michele Costantini to fight potentially with him and Phil Kraus for the podium. It's gonna be a top 5 most likely for Jaden Munoz. Might be a little bit of a bridge too far to fight for the win, but even then, he wasn't even originally in the field today. Eventually did make it, got the heartbreak taken away after some drivers got penalized. I think he's going to be up 30 spots, basically, if he finishes P5, so it's going to be well done all the same for Jaden Munoz.
Exactly. Did the best with what he was given. And out to the turn 1. Move made, and the 124 grabs 6th position away from Peter Berryman. Pablo Espez, Oscar Bixrud, and Marcos Nunez have lined up behind Joshua Chin in that purple and black private label team height with power slide entry. The Nitrocross car of Oscar Bixrud half jinked to the inside of Espez before backing out and thinking wiser of it. But as they fight in the mid-pack, 12 to go at the line for your leaders. Eduardo Leo is caught. Elliot Veyron, 7 push-to-passes left to use. Veyron has got 6 left to use to try and defend. It works in both directions.
And there's not going to be any fuel saving, I don't think. It's going to be a 23-lap stint at the end of the race if these guys make it to the end of the race. That's pretty normal. I think you'll be able to use a little bit of the push-to-pass. But does Eduardo Leo have the pace to be able to overcome that dirty air? Can he find that same pace he had early on that he used to pull a 4 or 5 second gap in raw pace on Elliot Veyron? He's got to hope that's still in the tank. He's got to hope that those lapped guys up ahead don't end up in the equation and split them up. And he's got to hope that Phil Kraus behind, who's on the push-to-pass, who's in an even safer position in terms of fuel. Remember, he's on a 2-lap shorter stint. He's got to hope that Kraus doesn't catch this battle either, because he's still definitely in consideration. He's definitely still got speed.
What we are seeing, though, both from Marcos Nunez and from Jaden Munoz, is the alternate tires do run pretty well at the start of this stint. So if you don't have to go very long on them, it's not a bad gamble at the end. And David Toth, I can tell you, is about to show us what his gamble is going to be. Down on pit lane for the final time today.
Unfortunately, I think his gap back to Elliot Veyron is going to be about 15 seconds. So it's going to be maybe top 5 consideration for him. So he'll still have a good result at the end of the day. But Jaden Munoz, you're talking about how fast those alternate tires are. Last lap for Munoz, 1:11.5. Those are basically opening stint of the race times. Those are lap 1 times, essentially. Those 2 seconds faster than Elliot Veyron. So can he keep those tires under him and keep that kind of pace going? I'm not entirely sure how long you can keep nuclear-powered pace like that going, but he's certainly doing a good job of it. And give him 2 more laps and he'll catch Costantini.
So it is now the battle for the race lead between Veyron and Leo. David Toth in the Drago Racing number 8. That green cone marks when you release yourself off the limiter. And he is going to emerge inside of the top 10. A little bit closer to 10 seconds than 15, just in front of Michael Johnny with Christian Hilgard, the lapped car, to work his way on through. But fascinating stage of the race. And here comes the move for the lead. Leo jinks to the inside, down Holman Boulevard, and slides his way back to the point. Leo versus Veyron. We got a treat on our hands with 10 laps to go at the Yard of Bricks.
And suddenly that 90% chance of victory for Elliot Veyron, unfortunately that all goes away with some bad tire life. Veyron's tires have fallen off a cliff. Leo on that last lap was only 0.2 faster, but that was because he was in the process of catching him and now overtaking him. And now you can see a couple of corners. Only in about 2 corners he's pulled half a second. Those tires have plummeted off the underside of that Coanda number 9. And unfortunately, Elliot Veyron's now got to look in his rearview mirrors because Phil Kraus is coming.
There's 2 different stories here as well, right? When you look at their past. Elliot Veyron, very, very respected sim racer, but he's also got plenty of experience in real cars. Runner-up in the Feed Formula 4 Racing Series in 2021. He was vice champion of the French National Karting Junior Championship in 2020. Has been part of the R8G esports team in the past, alongside now joining up with Coanda. Plenty of experience. On the other side, Eduardo Leo, first time he'd ever driven a car, like actually sat behind the wheel of a real car, was when he got behind the wheel of a BMW during Prodigy Week in the month of May and drove around an autocross track. The next day he was put into a Radical SR1, and boy did he impress. What different stories between them. Jaden Munoz, though, what speed he is showing. And not going to get past Costantini with ease. He's going to have to make this move happen a little bit with a bit more planning.
And unfortunately, I mentioned he was a little bit in desperation mode. He was making some unorthodox moves, and there comes a point where there's smart places where you can do that. If you're going to make the move, you can go for a low percentage move, but when it's unlikely and you just lose yourself even more time, there does come a point where a low percentage move is a low percentage move for a reason. And trying to go for a move in turn 9 when he was barely alongside didn't work out for him. Lost time on that lap. He was actually slower than your race leader on that lap because of that time lost. Look for him to make this move probably in a slightly more normal spot at the end of Holman Boulevard at turn 7. With how things are developing, I think that'll be a far more opportune place for him. And it might be an opportune place for Elliot Veyron. He's in the draft, but he's saving his push to passes. There's still 9 laps to go, and he's only got 7 of them.
And that's why you want to try and keep them in reserve as well, right? So that you don't leave yourself in especially in these races where safety cars are a threat, right? You need those in reserve at the very end as David Toth slides in front of Peter Berryman as those new alternate tires, I should say, for David Toth. Working very, very well. You can see the compounds on the left-hand side. Interesting how many, Joey, have decided that the alternates were the choice given the conditions that we have. Still around the warmest we've seen so far today.
And the alternates, they're faster for a reason. They exist for a reason. Now, they do fall off much, much faster, as is just the reality of an alternate tire. But when you're going for a shorter stint, that's exactly what you need a faster tire for. Faster pace, shorter term. You don't have to worry about tire wear, and that's definitely going to work out. Jaden Munoz does finally get to the inside of Costantini into turn 1, later on the brakes. Easy move for him. Phil Kraus is next, and that's for the podium, but is this the time when it starts to even out? Munoz has been pushing 100% for the last 10 laps or so. Those Reds will survive until the end of the race, but they might end up evening out and be just as fast as the primary tires if Munoz has worn them out a little bit too much. So he's got to look forward now and hope he can still catch Kraus.
Remember that long middle stint of the race just before the caution? Leo had gone on to a second set of the alternate tires and hadn't set the world alight, but by no means was he falling off a cliff. So, you know, just keep that in mind. By no means do I want to say that Munoz is going to find himself dropping backwards, but I don't also think it's a guarantee that he's going to close and be able to make this move so easily. He's also been burning through his push-to-passes just a little bit more, and you can ride with him in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. And that Williams Esports 124. Leo 4/10 clear of Veyron. 7 laps to go. It's coming down to the wire, Joey, and we've still got, let's just make sure we point this out, 16 cars within around 30 seconds or so. We knew this was a competitive field. We knew it was going to be tough to survive, let alone be up towards the front. And that's proving true.
And those push-to-passes, we haven't seen much of them, but I have a feeling we're going to be seeing some of them very soon. 7 laps to go, 7 push-to-passes. I honestly think we might see some of them saved for about 4 laps to go, because you're going to want to use one down the front straight, and you're going to want to use one in the middle straight here down Holman Boulevard. So you're still not seeing them from the leaders being used. I think you did just see one from David Toth being used. He gets by Michele Costantini. And honestly, I think Toth is in a better position than Munoz to potentially be a race winner here. He's on 4-lap fresher tires. That last lap was a 1:11.7, a second faster than anybody ahead of him. It's another conversation of being able to carry that pace until the end of this race, but Toth should be able to actually get by Munoz, and he'll be in a real conversation to catch Phil Kraus and be in conversation for the podium.
No, I very much agree with you there. The question, I guess, now is, does he have enough time, right? Because he is going about a second a lap faster. He's still 5 seconds behind. If he fights with Munoz, who's not using the button in a defensive response here, this might cost them some time. They wibble-wobble their way down to turn number 1. Bravery on both sides to really commit and trust the tires. And David Toth take a bow around the outside up to 4th.
Talk about trusting the tires. He had 2 left side tires in the grass coming through turn 2, but he trusted the grip on the outside, trusted to be able to get things straightened out, and now he's safe up into 4th place, and Munoz doesn't have the push-to-pass to use and can't quite get by him. He knows those tires aren't quite as underneath him as they once were. Very late in the brakes into turn 7, so well done closing that down, but you're going to start seeing Toth run away now, and Costantini is just along for the ride, hoping that Munoz falls off even more and he can recycle a top 5 out of this.
Yeah, and again, I think Kawanda had kind of, they all put all drivers onto the same strategy, so they could have gone maybe and split the call a little bit, but they felt strongly that this was the right call. Will it play and hold true? We're going to find out now, because 5 to go at the line. It's time to start using those push-to-passes if you've got them in reserve and if you've been rationing them to battle. Leo does not respond. He doesn't feel like he needed to. He holds on to turn 1.
And he was not close enough to actually make that happen. And remember, push-to-pass rules not the same as they are in the current IndyCar series. You don't just press the button. In the real series, you press the button for as long as you want to use push-to-pass. You take your finger off the button, push-to-pass ends. In this car, in the sim, you push the button, pass lasts for about 15-20 seconds, and then it turns off. You only get 10 pushes, so you've got to make sure you use it when you can use it for a long period of time. You can't just use it for a spurt between two corners. You're going to use it on the front stretch, you're going to use it on Holman Boulevard, you're going to use it when it's going to be in full effect for about 10 seconds. But you do need to be close still. It's not a magic passing button. You need to be within about 3 or 2/10 on that long front straight to actually make a move happen. Veyron needs to make sure the exit at a turn 13 and turn 14 are perfectly set up to be close enough. If you don't set it up here, push to pass isn't going to do you a whole lot of good. It'll get you closer. It won't get you alongside, though.
David Toth is going to be about 4 seconds off the leaders at the line with 4 laps to go. Even if he closes a second per lap, making the move, I think he's run out of time. Phil Krause is going to have to try and fight to hold on to his spot on the podium. Is it down to 2? Or can Krause build a house like he's done so many times? Jaden Munoz, let's not forget, tire's going to be bleeding off and falling for him. Can Costantini take advantage? And no, don't forget, you've got Marcos Nunes, Alexander Van der Sant, Josh Chin and Pablo Espes still battling. This is top-level racing, Joey. There's fights through the field.
And we're glowing up in orange. Got to use those push to passes. You don't get any credit for them if you don't use them. So before the end of the race, make sure that number is down to 0. This isn't quite the battle for the top 10, but it's the battle for the last spot outside the top 10. And critically, if you're thinking in numbers, if you finish P11, that's the top third of the field. So Alex Van der Sant going to be very, very interested in holding on to this position. Mr. Chin, though, going to be even more interested in stealing that away from him. These guys have raced against each other for so long. They're both in purple cars. It's a rivalry. Chin not able to make the move in turn 7 that time, but he's hunting. He's a little bit faster, and he needs to find a place to make this happen.
Jaden Munoz, Michele Costantini squabble amongst one another. We are glowing up in orange, like Joey says. That timing tower illuminated like a Christmas tree, but in orange. Leo still has the margin down to the opening corner. Veyron a bit deeper. He's going to drop back a little bit more. Leo's got a margin. He's breaking away. Jaden Munoz fights with Michele Costantini. Costantini loses out. Munoz holds on to 5th.
And that may have been a race-deciding mistake from Elliot Veyron. On push to pass into turn 1, outbraking himself a little bit, and lost all that time through the first sector, trying to flail his way back onto the line. Eduardo Leo, using push to pass down Holman Boulevard, pulls that gap even more. Leo's in a comfortable spot, but here's Munoz and Costantini into turn 12 on the last lap, side by side. Not much room left by Munoz on the outside, but Costantini says, I don't care, I'm going for the move anyway. Through the grass makes it happen, and now he's made it back.
And well, they swapped back again. Definitely seeing the way that these tires at the end, even if you're both on the same compound in some cases, for example, Munoz and Berryman, how you treat them when you move on to them can be very, very important. But as now, once again, we cross the yard of bricks. 2 laps to hold on for Eduardo Leo. 1.3 seconds the advantage. A crucial mistake from Elliot Veyron. Could that be the moment that decides the race?
It might just have been. You can't count anything out. Still 2 full laps to go. Many, many miles of racing. Many mistakes possible. Many things can happen. You never know. But I think Elliot Veyron is probably sitting behind the cockpit right now thinking, if I defended a little bit harder, if I was able to keep the lead and be on defense instead of offense, I might have had a better chance. But when you're against a driver like Eduardo Leo, who in the first stint, absolutely phenomenal in terms of tire saving, stretched those alternate tires for as long as some other drivers have stretched the primary tires. That was phenomenal. He was on the back foot. He fought back. He was saving tires while we all thought he was down for the count. And now he's about to take the white flag. Potentially hang on to this. And Phil Krause in a very comfortable position, 2 seconds ahead of him, 3 seconds behind him. He can breathe a little bit. He can take a little bit of a victory lap on the podium.
And we thought David Toth was going to be able to close. No, it was not to be. And as the white flag flies here from the racing capital of the world, one more lap in Speedway, Indiana. Eduardo Leo is a lap away from writing the first chapter of the VCO IndyCar Challenge, powered by Open Wheels. Final push to pass for some drivers as they barrel down to turn number 1.
Veyron's not going to give up. There's going to be 100% push here on the final lap, because even if it looks unlikely, even if you have a second and a half in front of you, there is always the possibility of a mistake. There's always the possibility of a bobble. There's always the possibility of clipping a curb wrong or clipping the grass wrong. But Eduardo Leo through the chicane, using his final push to pass down Holman Boulevard for good measure. There are no likely overtaking spots left on this lap for as far back as Elliot Veyron is. He can cruise, and as long as there's no mistakes, this will be an Eduardo Leo day.
An Eduardo Leo day to savor as well, because next week he heads to London hoping to write history in his own little journal. His next chapter in his racing career, maybe as a real-life, full-time professional racing driver. What better way, though, to celebrate than here in the sim world where that journey began, winning in the opening round of the VCO IndyCar Challenge powered by Open Wheels. From the racing capital of the world, 75 laps complete, Eduardo Leo, the best that Indianapolis saw across the race, and the expression of relief tells you all you need to know. Joey, that was a race where he was pushed to the very end.
That was an absolute masterpiece. On offense, on defense, he had both of them. He fought back when we were doubting him in that final stint. And he says, you know what, there was no reason to doubt me. I had it under control the whole time. Absolutely masterful. Fantastic stuff from him in the stealth black number 17. Maybe we'll even see a sponsor or two on that car next time out.
I mean, if there aren't any teams that were already keeping an eye on the status of Eduardo Leo, well, you've now been notified, and again, there are real racing teams that will be watching him with great intrigue going into next week's Prodigy Draft. Can't wait to see what he, Michael Romanidis, Gustavo Ariel, what's in store for them as the field crosses the line and we get to round up our opening round of the championship. And boy, what a long morning, afternoon, evening, no matter where you are in the world for these drivers it has been. It started in qualifying. Let's not forget, Joey, first they had to make the race. They had to be the fastest 33 to be able to compete.
One of those one-day shows. They definitely take a lot out of you, but they made it happen. And very deserving top 10. Also, Alex Van de Sant got very close to taking P10 away from Marcos Nunez at the end there. I thought I wrote him off for having some old tires, but that drive in those final couple of laps, only a couple of tenths away from taking that final spot in the top 10.
Look at the race results. 1.3 the margin between Leo and Veyron, and I'm not expecting too much from race control in terms of changes. This top 10 should be pretty loaded and locked as Phil Kraus, David Toth, and Michele Costantini, your top 5. Jaden Munoz, what a recovery drive from him after an error in qualifying. I don't think there's any other way to put it. Peter Berryman, Xander Reed, Michael Gianni, and Marcos Nunez. The rest of your top 10 with Kawanda having all 4 of their drivers inside of that first page. Alex Van de Sant and then Joshua Chin, the pair of Powerslide Motorsports counterparts, 11th and 12th, with Pablo Espez, Oscar Bixford, and then Brandon Roseborough, your top 15. Cy Andre and Sam Coitert scored as the final cars on the lead lap. Coitert, unfortunately, slightly robbed by the speeding penalty of a fight at the very end. Christian Hilgard and Adam Crane, Satellite Racing, 18th and 19th, with Movano Corsa and Sam Michaels down in 20th. It'll be Sam Carasalo 21st, with Rob Malechka and Ryan Barneveld. Final cars left 1 lap down. Gustavo Ariel 2 laps down for him with a late race pit stop after the early penalty for start infringement. Matt Taylor, Christian Steele, Jacob Oster also finishing, but unfortunately DNFs for the likes of Josh Thompson, for Xavi Ross. The incident that saw the sole caution of the day saw a very wrecked 04 race car down at turn 3 with Danny Lorenzo, Enric Andre, Kevin Burrell, and Diogo Pinto. The rest of the 33 that saw the green flag 75 laps ago. Wow, oh wow. We'll take a breath and now we'll look forward to having a chat with some of our drivers. It will be hopefully Eduardo Leo that comes and has a chat with us sooner rather than later. Elliot Veyron, Phil Kraus as well. But Joey, some thoughts from you as we get ready to have a chat with these drivers.
I mean, what a perfect way to open the season. This track, one of the most underrated in terms of racing, I think, in at least North America or even in the world. It's built for fantastic racing. It always delivers. And when you put a field of 33 of the finest drivers in an IndyCar or in any car on this racing facility, you're going to have a pretty great race. And we absolutely did. Even before that caution came out. Totally green flag racing. About 3 different strategies. It all delivered. It was fantastic. Exciting all the way through. And I wish I wasn't getting ripped away by real IndyCar for the next 4 weeks, because I want to be here for Barber.
Oh, Barber, you just reminded me of what's coming up next. Let's go, though, and see if we can have a chat with our 3rd place finisher, Phil Kraus, who's standing by. Phil, opening round now in the books. 3rd place on the board. How are you feeling? Pretty good day, I've got to feel, in that private label team hype with Powerslide Motorsports car.
Yeah, Arjuna, it was a pretty good day. like there might have been room for a little bit more because we had the best strategy of the guys who had that one less stop there. But yeah, I can't be upset with third. Leo Edo, he was just absolutely rapid today. Same with Elliott. I think that's the best I could have got no matter what. On that last run, those last few laps, I thought David might get me, but I was lucky his reds kind of fell off a cliff, and we were able to hang on to third place.
Talk to us about the race as a whole, though. Just the one caution. I'm sure from your perspective, pretty tough to keep focus across of all 75 laps. Was it what you expected to be out there fighting with, top-level IndyCar drivers as you'll be doing for the rest of this summer?
Yeah, it was definitely difficult to stay focused, Arjuna. The start, I'm sure was very hectic. I know a lot of guys got penalties for that, and I looked behind me before I went, and we were like 4 or 5 wide because people were checking up. I think everyone was trying to predict the start from Edo, and it caused a bit of chaos. But only one safety car. I honestly thought it'd be more. I was thinking before the race we'd probably have 2, 3. So yeah, really good job by everyone to keep it real clean, and looking forward to running with these guys for another 5 races, and obviously in the Pro Series later next month.
Barber up next. Joey just reminded me of that. How are you feeling about going over there? It's a couple of weeks away.
I mean, we're going to be going to the Adam Blocker coaching school because I'm not very good at Barber. He absolutely kicks my teeth on every time I go there. So hopefully I can take some tips from him and get a little bit better there. But off of this result, honestly, looking forward to it.
Well, we'll see you in a couple of weeks' time. Phil, congratulations on third, and best of luck for the preparation and the build-up to our trip to the Alabama roller coaster.
Yep, cheers, Arjuna.
So a quick chat with Phil Kraus, and now a chat with our winner. The winner of the opening round of the VCO IndyCar Challenge, powered by Open Wheels. Eduardo Leo joins us now. Eduardo, congratulations. We saw the reaction, the emotion. We know what this means to you to grab the victory. How excited are you to come out on top in this first round of the season? Oh, we don't have a... we can't hear you, Eduardo. What we'll do is we're going to send Eduardo to go off and try and get his audio sorted. In the meantime, let's go and catch up with Elliott Veyron, who's standing by with Joey Tebben.
Indeed he is. Elliott, P2 at the end of the first round of the season. It was close at the end there. Battle with you and Edo. What more did you need in that final stint to hold him back, potentially?
Hey guys. Yeah, was a good race. Unfortunately, I didn't save enough tires to go and attack Eduardo at the end. But yeah, apart from that, it was a really good race.
It was a good race indeed. It seemed like, in terms of every driver across Coanda, you guys had pretty similar strategies. Was that a plan at the start of the race that you were all going to be synced up on strategy, or did you have possibilities of splitting it up?
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank everybody at Honda for all the hard work they put this week and last week. And yeah, at first we planned to do the same strategy, and then when the safety car came out, we didn't really know. But yeah, we stay on the same strategy, and maybe it wasn't the right call, but I don't know.
Well, for today, congrats on the P2. We love seeing the purple and orange fighting up there, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks at Barber.
Thanks. See you guys.
Elliott Veyron coming home in P2, Arjuna, just short, but now we see, has Eduardo Leo been able to figure out the mic issues? I hope so.
I think he has.
Good evening,
Eduardo.
everyone.
There he is.
We got a copy loud and clear. Congratulations. We saw the emotion. We saw the reaction. Talk to us. How are you feeling as the first winner in the VCO IndyCar Challenge powered by Open Wheels?
Amazing, absolutely amazing. I've had a really difficult week. Just last Sunday I did a karting race and it went pretty badly, so I really needed some success, at least in the sim. Just out of words, really. I played it everything to perfection. The practice was incredible. I managed to get everything sorted perfectly. The setup felt amazing. The car out there was simply perfect, and yeah, only thing that managed to throw me out really was the safety car that kind of abrupted my plans. But apart from that, really it has been an amazing race at the pace all along. Just had to pull one overtake on Elliott that fortunately he made it easy for me, so yeah, just super happy.
Talk to me what went through your mind through the caution as well. We briefly mentioned on the broadcast, Altus Esports, the road team, slightly splintering up. What help were you having in your ear? Did you have someone telling you to pit or not pit, or were you making all of those decisions by yourself?
Oh no, absolutely. I was all alone because it didn't sort a spotter for me. Honestly, now that I think of it, it was quite stupid. So probably next race I will prepare better. But apart from that, I was just thinking what could happen. Really, I wasn't thinking that a caution could happen, like in the middle of the race. I thought about it at the start and at the end of the race because it was the most likely scenario. But really, it was kind of a weird safety car. I guess don't know what happened there, but I saw a car spinning off the first chicane, so I guess maybe that was all along. But managed to work it pretty well. There was nothing strange to do. We just stayed out on track and managed to get the restart done pretty safely.
Talk to me as well about next week. What's going through your mind? Because you head out to London to the Prodigy Draft with the hopes and the dream of signing a real racing contract to race a Radical SR1 in the Prodigy 3 Racing Series later this year. How excited are you? Are you ready? Are you nervous?
A little bit, yeah, absolutely. I think this Saturday was great already. Hopefully I'm gonna have another great Saturday next one as I'm heading to London. Yeah, I can't wait.
Well, I'll see you in London. Looking forward to it, Eduardo. Congratulations on a great victory to open up the season. Can't wait to see what you do for the rest of this year.
Thank you. See you for the next race and in London.
Eduardo Leo, winner of the opening round of the VCO IndyCar Challenge. And oh boy, all roads lead to the Alabama roller coaster on July 20th. Same time, same place. RaceSpotTV, VCO Esports at 4:10 p.m. UTC for the qualifying coverage. And boy, if today was exciting, Joey, I can't even imagine what we're in for when we make our way to Alabama.
Yeah, the Indianapolis road course totally flat. It's like a billiard table. And then we go to Alabama where Mr. George Barber saw a bunch of hills. He saw some totally uneven terrain. He saw basically a swamp. And he said, you know what? Let's put a racetrack here. Let's put a couple of spiders. Let's put Georgina hanging from the bridge. And let's make something absolutely crazy. Everybody loves Barber. I love Barber. I'm very excited. I'll be watching on this weekend, and I hope, Arjuna, that in the time between now and 3 weeks from now, we can put in a virtual Georgina, and we can make sure she's duct taped to the bridge so she doesn't fall off.
Hopefully no such drama like that. Don't forget we've got a busy schedule, of course. Once we get back going, it's a couple of weeks off though before, on the 20th of July, we will be back in action. And then after our trip to Barber, ovals come into center stage. So much to look forward to. And what an opening round of this VCO IndyCar Challenge powered by Open Wheels. For our team behind the scenes, thank you so much for joining us. Can't wait to do this all over again in a couple of weeks' time. Eduardo Leo leaves the racing capital of the world as the opening round winner. Plenty of other drivers leave with stories to be told. Hopes to maybe look forward to round two to achieve, or maybe something to try and get revenge for in terms of a disappointing effort. Can't wait for you to join us from Barber. For Joey Tebben alongside myself, Arjuna Kankipati. We'll see you next time. So long from the racing capital of the world.
Thank you.